And you have discussions about it. You have discussions with your partners and communicate that to your partners, saying, you know what, I'm just not really happy where things are going. What can we do? How can we make things better? How, you have to address those things. You have to bring them to the forefront. You're not going to hide them like a little child and freaking pant and scream and cry and shit like that. No, you have to fucking have hard conversations.
What's cooking, everybody? I am joined in the bunker today, finally, thank God, by my very good friend, Mr. Chaz Cervino. This podcast has been a long time coming. We will explain in this episode why it hasn't happened until now, but I look forward to having Chaz in here again. He's got not just a perspective on marketing and business, which he's had an incredible career so far, but he's got a perspective on life that I really appreciate and want to make a regular part of this show. This is one of my favorite people, just a great all-around human, and somebody who's making some moves and doing some pretty cool things. So we'll get into that, what he's allowed to today, because some of it's kind of new. Wink, wink. But I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I know there's going to be a lot more like this to come. So I hope you guys enjoy as well. Anyway, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, and leave a like and comment on the video if you would, please. To all my people leaving 5-star reviews with a comment on Apple Podcasts, thank you. They're coming out great. Let's keep those rolling. If you haven't had a second to do that and can leave a 5-star review with a comment on there, I would really, really appreciate it. That said, you know what it is. I'm Julian Dorey, and this is TRENDIFIER. Let's go! This is one of the great questions in our culture. Where is the nuance? You're giving opinions and calling them facts. You feel me? Everyone understands this, but few seem to do it. If you don't like the status quo, start asking questions.
So, Cavaliers, we landed probably in I don't even know, 2013 or 2014. We were still, so we had moved to the restaurant. We were above the restaurant. Then we moved into Fairfield, into the Fairfield Commons, which was 1,000 square feet. Felt like we were on top of the world.
Is that next to the gas station?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
like right, on off 46 right there.
Off 46.
I know where that is.
Yeah, it was right before the Sunoco there.
Hilarious.
And it looks like apartments. They're like brick apartments. It looks like apartments.
That's one way to call it.
Yeah. But we felt like we were on top of the world there. And it was one of my business partners had a connection with a cousin of his that worked at the Cavaliers, which was fantastic. So we established a relationship with them. I found out my cousin was the VP of operations, so that also helped us kind of cement these guys are real. Like they're real people. They're not just like random kids. And pretty much they were like, we're having a lot of trouble like monitoring our Twitter account. So we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, if people are at the games and say like a spill happens or like and someone spills their Coca-Cola or like something like they need immediate attention to within the arena at that time, people were tweeting at the Q Arena. So like we need someone to monitor this like 24/7 like, and we're like, yeah, we could do that. And they're like,
now why wouldn't they just do that internally?
So they had their security guards who really didn't know Twitter, and this is like, this is 10 years ago. Decade ago, like they had their security guards monitoring their Twitter account. The guys didn't know how to really navigate it or what to look for or how to respond. You just got to be really quick. So they ended up they bringing it in house, but at the time we were monitoring it and then sending them reports that next morning based upon what was being said. So it was also at the arena, but then it was also like things that were who were tweeting at the Cavs.
Like
so,
anytime.
Overnight
or all day?
Overnight.
Okay, so you guys handled the graveyard shift.
Yeah. So yeah, we were doing the dirty work. We'd do anything. Now we have the Cleveland Cavaliers on our client list. Fuck.
Yeah. So that's like kind of the breakthrough moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And then which was really interesting was that one of the tweets that came in was said because LeBron had just left. So we got the Cavs when they were like the worst of the worst. Like LeBron had just left to Miami, which was that 2012?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 years before. He hadn't come back yet, put it that way.
He didn't come
were
back.
Bad.
They were as bad as
they were
as you can be. So one of the Cleveland fans actually said, he goes, when LeBron comes back to the stadium, I'm going to shoot up the stadium.
That came on your watch.
Yes, as our company watch.
So what do you do?
So he sent it into the Cavaliers, letting them know, like, hey, this guy just claimed this. I think we should, you guys should look into this.
Oh yeah.
So if my memory is correct, they had reached out to law enforcement, or I wasn't sure if it was the FBI or some sort of law enforcement. Got the guy's address, went to the guy's house, and he had over like 10 unlicensed guns at his house.
Holy shit, he was serious.
And they arrested him.
Wow.
I don't know if someone's going to do that and they're going to tweet about it prior to doing that. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, they're crazy. You never know. Like if they're
crazy,
they could be well calculated and planning something out with that, but they could be dumb enough and crazy enough to do something like tweet it out because they're dumb enough and crazy enough to think to do something like that in the first place. I mean, you and I,
insane.
We can't relate to that. It's craziness.
It's absolute craziness, and they pretty much told us that. Thank you guys so much for bringing this to our attention, because we're sifting through. How many people are tweeting out the Cavs every freaking day?
Now,
thousands and thousands of people.
Are you doing this yourselves? Going through yourself the tweets? You don't have an algorithm reading for them?
No, this is just manual, man. This is freaking...
So you got the interns being paid pizza to go through and find the Unabomber.
Yes. I mean, in other words, yes. I mean, at that point, we did have a few employees. We had like 2 or 3 employees. Starting part-time employees to go through it.
Wow. And that's 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
So you've been operating for 2 or 3 years. You get the Cavs, but still all the content, still just the management. When did it shift? Because you ended up having 2 companies too. You had Today's Business and Today's Athletes. And Today's Athletes leveraged everything you ended up doing, not just this, inside of Today's Business to work with athletes and influencers. Mm-hmm. So you went far, far beyond this. But if you were going to an influencer or an athlete in like 2013, 2014, it's just like a content management guy, you weren't going to land those guys. So clearly, like after this, it had to make some sort of shift.
It made some sort of shift. We started creating some tech within the affiliate space and being able to track conversions. Now,
can you talk about the affiliate space for people? Because it's everyone knows what it is. They may just not know what it is.
Yeah, it's when you see an influencer or an athlete or anyone on social and they're like, oh, use my code and get $20 off. Yep. Or make sure you use this link when you're signing up for a website. That's pretty much just an affiliate link where people use in order to get discounts. But the individual, the athlete who is putting out that particular post with that link will then get compensated, whether it's compensated in cash, in product, but they are getting compensated some way, somehow for referring that particular person. Right. That's pretty much as simple as format as it is. And we were in the process of creating some tech that would actually, when you have an influencer or an athlete, they would be able to use this platform and then find a deal through the platform with the brand, and then be able to utilize that link in order to make money off that particular transactions.
Was that the thing you were working on with Pepper Jam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys ended up, I mean, that was a heavy part of the business.
Oh my goodness.
Heavy part.
Yeah.
Like beyond just like the athlete links and everything, it was more like you were like an influencer network with it.
Yep.
So you're bringing in people to also match them with deals yourself.
Exactly. That's what we did for a lot of athletes, influencers, was bring them in, being able to curate deals for them with different brands. We were really big in the supplement space, like bodybuilding.com, Nutrex, Cellucor, like a lot of those, because the fitness space and that nutraceutical space, I mean, huge margins.
Yeah.
So, and on Instagram, even in 2015, 2016, 2017, like fitness is huge. huge on social.
Well, when did the shift really, like in your eyes, go to Instagram, where it's like that's where our focus is, that's where the main money is? Because at the beginning, you're doing 2011, 2012. Instagram wasn't even created till 2012. You're doing Facebook, you're doing Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
But then it really, I mean, the action, not that Facebook doesn't have action. I mean, I think it's a fucking cesspool, but, you know, like it still clearly has a lot of revenue. Instagram's where the culture is and where the world is in that way. So when did that shift really start to happen in your eyes?
About 2015, 2016. And it was like, we got to go all in on IG. And that was, I mean, at that point, when you're, and you know how visual Instagram is, you got to put out good content.
Yeah.
So you got to put out really good content for your influencers, athletes, and everyone alike. And then and then you got to keep creating tons of creatives for all of these influencer campaigns, athlete campaigns for affiliate, you know, and being able to like, okay, create this video, tell them, all right, do this. And really, because when you're working with these athletes and influencers, some of them are true creators, which is one thing.
Yeah.
But the athlete space that I notoriously in, former athlete, played football in college, like this is they play football for a living. They play in the NBA for a living. Like this is not what they do. If you're an influencer, you're a creator, this is what you do
all day.
This is what you do every day. So you're coming up with creative ideas, you're coming up with concepts. When you're an athlete, you're putting up whatever you want on your social media, whether it's a brand, I just partnered with this brand, so on and so forth, so people know. You add that affiliate link, putting that twist on it and giving them some more creative and some really cool concepts behind it, then set you apart, because they're usually, all right, this is blocking and tackling. This is what we're doing.
Right.
X, Y, and Z.
If they do enough.
If they do it that
much.
at all.
Yeah.
Because they're not really, they don't really care about, some people care, like Juju cares about his brand, cares about his Instagram, cares about his YouTube, his TikTok, the whole deal. Some guys could care less, or they don't even want to be even on the social media platform. So sometimes it was a struggle just to get people, hey, I think you really should, considering like your playing days only last a short amount of time, capture as many followers and individuals that know who you are and like who you are while you're still playing, while you're still on TV, because when you're done, and either, you're good enough to be inducted to the Hall of Fame or do some other stuff, but that's it afterwards.
You never have that attention again.
No.
Unless you have already curated a platform to be able to continue to have it. And still, what a lot of these athletes, it seems to me, don't realize, and it's hard, man. I mean, you come in at 21, 22, 20, 19, whatever. You don't understand shit.
No.
Like I didn't know anything at that age. So we expect them to know this. No, they just don't get it. Like the ability to have all those cameras automatically on you because that's your job, and the amount of awareness that creates around you and the interest it creates around you because there's the unknown of what you are going to do performing said job, win, lose, have your stats, whatever. You can't replicate that. And these guys are often the last to know as well. Like, forget the fact that some of them can have their career end like that. Suddenly they play bad.
One
and
injury. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They get injured, they're done. But they also may just, they might be chugging along and kind of taking it for granted, and then they're 29 and suddenly they lose a step. And they lose another step that season. And then next year they come there and they're struggling to make the roster. Or, they're getting traded or bought out in their contract in the NBA. And suddenly, like, not only do they not have a star, not have that attention because they're not on the court or on the field right now, or not playing much, but now it's over. And now it's like 2 years later, like, oh, yeah, I remember you. Hold on, let me go back and watch the game and see who's really playing. That's a hard conversation to have with these guys. Because when they're in the moment and they're the star or they're on the up, you're not thinking like that.
No. It's the last thing that you even want to put in your mind. Never mind have those conversations or have those hard conversations. You don't even want to put that in your client's mind that, like, hey, this could be over. But reality sets in. You got to be a realist at the end of the day, and you got to be able to tell them, hey, unfortunately, it's not going to last forever.
Yeah. So you move into affiliate pretty heavy after 2013. You start.
No, that was a little later. We moved into full digital first. We moved into like doing SEO, so organic search.
Yep.
We moved into doing paid ads on Google, then social ads. We moved into the ad space prior to moving into affiliate.
And so you built up your creative chops when you were doing that too, because
Yes.
when you're basically running. And SEO is something that even to this day, like people are still like, oh yeah, SEO, we do it. Or oh, SEO, yeah, that thing.
You need it.
You need it.
I mean, if people can't find you on Google, might as well be in the fucking desert.
That's it, man. So you were focused pretty much all on Google with that.
Because we were still working with small, medium-sized businesses, and those businesses, hospital systems, construction companies, like those businesses, real estate companies, they need SEO. If you're looking for an apartment in Edgewater, if you're not showing up on the first page, there's there's 3 ads and there's 5 other listings on the first page. So
That's it.
that's
Yeah.
it. Who the hell's going to the second page?
The data going of people that go beyond the first or second choice on Google, I don't have it up right now, but it's ridiculous. It's like 80% of people don't go past the first choice when they type something in. So,
or 80% go after the 3 ads.
Exactly. So like even if people are paying up top, the people who have the organic may not even get rewarded because they don't go past that. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it because we have such an appetite for instantaneous decision, and there's think about all the things people Google in a day. It's how they get the answer on anything and everything they want to do. So when you take into account, it's not like they're searching 1 or 2 things a day. When they're searching shit, they're searching a million things. They don't have time to go to page 2, click this article, go back. You know how much work that is, man? I got to go back? I got to go back onto the Google. No, I can't do that.
I mean, now it's all Google knowledge panels. Now it's like, the frequently asked questions right on Google. So they tell
What's
you.
What's Google Knowledge Panel?
It's literally, it's like it curates the internet and pretty much gives you like a profile on individuals, on businesses. And it's around the first page. So you really don't have to click even on you don't even have to really click on a website or something to, Wikipedia or whatever it may be to get on there. They really want to give you that answer right on Google's home, on the homepage. I mean, the homepage is just the search, is just a search bar. So, I mean, they want to give you those answers, and the quicker Google provides you with those answers, the more reliable it is, and the more you're gonna search on there because it's giving you the information.
Now, when did you guys start really talking with the athletes and influencers? And did that happen naturally? Was that a conversation like, oh, let's start focusing on this, or how'd it go?
2013. Me and my business partner both played college ball. So
Where'd you play?
I played wide receiver.
No, where?
Where I played at Syracuse and then ended up transferring to Hofstra.
The Cuse.
The Cuse was, I loved it there.
Yeah, that was who was the coach when you came in?
Greg Robinson. West Coast guy. So he didn't fit too well on the East, but we loved Gregors, and we only won like 4 games his 5th and final year.
That was your freshman year?
2009. 2008 was my freshman year. Redshirted my first year, and then played every game as a redshirt freshman in 2009. And then coach got fired, stayed through spring ball, stuck it out because that's pretty interesting stories.
Who came in?
Doug Marrone.
Doug Marrone. Is he still?
Do we have
Is he still the head coach of Jacksonville?
No,
he got fired, right?
No. Urban Meyer's now the new
coach.
Urban
Myers. I forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yes, it's
great. But yeah, he was the head coach until like a couple months ago, I guess.
Do you have like those buttons around here where it's like, I don't know, like they have it on those game shows or like on like Kramer where it's like, do you have any of that? Like do you have something?
Hit that.
Yeah.
Kidding. What the fuck?
So that's where I'm like,
That's never been used before. That's never been used before.
Never been used?
Never been used.
What the fuck?
I love it. I love it. I have one on my desk that says no.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's right
no.
to the point. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
No.
No.
So Marrone comes in.
And literally the guy is just a total fucking ass clown.
How so? Why?
The guy is on like some high horse and just wants it. And I understand it from the perspective now. I do, as a business owner and somebody down the line. When you're 17, 18 years old, you don't respect it. and you don't agree with it. So he came in and was pushing everybody to transfer. Didn't matter who the heck it was. I mean, if it was we had a wide receiver that ended up playing in the league for a number of years, Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Who he let Mike do whatever Mike could do no wrong.
Right.
Mike had 40-inch vert, and the guy was 6'2", 6'3", and was out of this world athletic. So, but everybody else on the team, we had to do 6 a.m. workouts, but they were 5 days a week. Usually you do 6 a.m. workouts like 2 days a week.
This is after he comes in.
This is spring ball. So as soon as he comes in, we start off-season conditioning and winter workouts. That's the first conversations. Everything is like, okay, we're getting into spring, we're getting into winter workouts, and then spring ball.
Did he tell you he wanted you to transfer though? Like, did he sit? Because you said he made everyone want to transfer. Was that a conversation?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So, but that was, I mean, he hinted at that throughout the winter conditioning and spring ball, and then afterwards, literally was like, all right, I think you should transfer, X, Y, and Z. Pretty much, he was telling me that I was gonna wash the dishes and like weird shit. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna be holding the bags for the next 3 years here. I'm like, I just didn't understand what the fuck he was talking about. I'm like, I don't really get it. We just partially when he first came in, we had to do all new assessments: 40, 5, 10, 5, 100 meter. So we had to do all that, and I was, and I'm not saying me. It was over 40 guys transferred. That's over a third.
Holy shit!
Dude, it's a third of the team. Like, can you put a team on the field at that point? No, you need to get a ton of JUCO transfers. You need a ton of people coming in to field a team at that point.
He's making that like the NFL though. Like these are college.
Well, that's
kids.
the whole thing. Did I choose to sign a letter of intent with you, Doug Marrone? No, I inherited you like a terrible stepfather.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what but he came in, so we had to do these 5 day a week, winter conditioning, and people were leaving
at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. But if everyone, so it was called Manly Fieldhouse, where Syracuse still trains, the football fieldhouse. And if you didn't have your Manly issued sweatpants, sweatshirt, he sent you outside in Syracuse with a foot of snow with shorts and a t-shirt on.
So you had to wear the uniform. And if you
No. If every person on the entire team didn't have their uniform, then you had to go out there with shorts and a t-shirt. If everyone came out there with sweatpants and a sweatshirt, you could wear your sweatpants and a sweatshirt and go train, humanely, if that's a word.
It is.
All right, good. So, so you could train in sweatpants and sweatshirt, but think about this: people were walking off the field with hypothermia and frostbite, and giving him the middle finger and leaving the field because it was inhumane.
He was trying to get him to transfer.
Of course.
He was trying to get him to leave. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't go. He'd be
Hell
fired
no.
in
Are
a
you
second.
kidding me?
He'd be fired in a second.
In a second,
One Instagram story about it, he's gone.
he's finished.
Honestly, for that, he should be. That's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure, but this happens so often in college football. I was just watching the news, and there's, what is it called when hazing? There's tons of different rules now about hazing and about freshmen coming in. Like,
Some of it's for the good, some of it's for the bad.
Exactly.
You don't want a coach forcing, who he's the boss of, forcing 18, 19, 20-year-olds to go out. And in Syracuse, it had to be what, minus 10 degrees out there?
easily.
Yeah, like that's not humane. To
No,
use
it
your
isn't.
Word. But there's like some softness around some other things too, like when people overuse hazing and shit like that.
No,
like, you know 100%. What I mean?
And I could definitely relate to that. Like when
Apples and oranges.
Syracuse and at Hofstra both did some freshman type stuff, because when I transferred there, I was a junior in the classroom, but I was a junior coming in, but I was kind of like, when you're a transfer, like who do you relate with? You're also with like a bunch of the freshmen that are coming in because you don't know anybody either.
So you did transfer to
So
Hofstra,
when I did transfer to Hofstra, but you have to do like funny things as like hazing. You have to do like a skit and like, all right, get in front of the team and like do like a funny skit of like, make fun of another player or the coach or like
And
those.
that's fine.
Come on, that's more than fine. It's like these paddle slapping and shit that, it's just like doing the stuff that we had to do. Like, that's
fine.
like,
That's what you know what I mean though, because the line now, like there is no line. People are like, they're instantaneously soft about shit, and everything's getting taken away, and because everything's transparent. But on the Marrone point and him coming in, this is a topic I actually think about a lot, because college coaches, college football coaches at D1 schools, or college basketball coaches, like the big money making sports, it's cutthroat business. Mm-hmm. They come in. They got a short leash. Oh, yeah. They got it, and it's their career. They either win or they're out, and they don't get it. The chances of getting a second chance are very, very hard.
Oh, yeah.
Slim to none. So I empathize with the fact that they need to put their best product out there. Mm-hmm. But there is something wrong with the system where you have it with kids stuck in the middle. Because I don't care what you say. If you're in the NFL, if you're in the NBA, you're being paid hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, business. Deal with it. Coach doesn't want you, too fucking bad. You're going to another team. You play in the fucking league, dude. That's what it is. When you're a college kid, let's even think worst case scenario, you're a freshman. You've never been away from home before. Coach gets fired. That's the coach who sat in your living room and said, looked your parents in the eyes, looked you in the eyes and said, I'm going to be like a second father to you. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly they're gone. And so for me, when these other coaches come in, they need, I understand they have a job to do, and they have to have some hard conversations. Like if the last system was a spread offense and this is going to be a West Coast offense, and there was a quarterback who was recruited there to play spread, right? Well, he's probably not going to play West Coast. So be like a dad to him and help him figure out his life. Don't be like, yo, fuck you, get off my team. I was talking with Grant Wiley about this on a podcast a few weeks ago, because he was there when Rich Rodriguez came in West Virginia. Yeah. Now, Grant started as a redshirt freshman, and the year after, Michael Vick won Freshman of the Year as a redshirt freshman. Mm-hmm. The year after, Grant won redshirt Freshman of the Year in the Big East as a redshirt freshman. So he was one of the best players on the team.
Fuck yeah.
Even him, when Rodriguez came in, he didn't look at Grant and say, Grant, transfer. But he looked right at Grant and he was like, yeah, listen, everything you did, it means shit to me.
Dude, same. It's the exact same words that they used at Syracuse. That played in every game last year, had a few catches, nothing to brag about. Yeah. But when you're on the field, you're like, okay, what's the next step? I want to play more. You want to play. That's why you're there.
There's nothing wrong with the motivation, is my point. There's nothing wrong with, hey, there's certain things that have to change. We have a job to do, whatever. But the fact that these guys are just, when they take these jobs, they're like, I'm going to get all my guys in here. So I don't give a fuck what you do. If you're here, you no longer matter. Exactly. And I'm going to throw you out in the minus 10 degree weather just to prove that, you need to leave. Mm-hmm. That's bullshit. That's over the line. But there has to be I understand the business. There has to be that balance there. You can't treat these kids like cattle. And I saw it. I've talked about it before. I've talked with you about it. I saw it up close with some of my guys in college, right? Some of my best friends who played D1 ball where we were. Like, I watched how the coach mistreated them. And that pissed me the fuck off. And in a couple situations, I'll never be okay with that in any way, shape, or form. And I'm thinking like, damn, like that's not, it was D1 AA, right? That's not even D1A, like Syracuse or something. Nothing like it. This is a moneymaker. It is a business, and they take it. They put these kids in the middle of it, and they don't fucking pay them. That's bullshit.
It's bullshit. And I think, to a couple points, they won't let you transfer in the same conference. I couldn't transfer anywhere else in the Big East.
Is that still a rule?
I think it's changed, but at that point you couldn't transfer in the Big East. Come on, I'm getting recruited on the East Coast. Who the fuck is recruiting me? It's the Big East, man. Like, obviously I had a lot of 1AA schools, and so who else is recruiting you? So I ended up transferring to a 1AA, which I didn't have to sit out at all, which was great, but you have to.
Oh, that's how. So if you transferred to anywhere 1A, you would have had to sit out a year.
Sit out for a year. When I have no choice of this, it doesn't make any sense. So, but then, and to Doug Marrone's point, do I understand where he's coming from? As someone who founded my own business, ran my own business, like, yes, I understand. You want to get as much of your own people in here as possible. If you're just taking over a new business as a new CEO and you inherit this company or buy this company, you're gonna keep a couple of the top people, and you're gonna siphon through the 90% of the other ones to bring in your own people. I get it. It's the way you go about it and the lack of respect that you have for other human beings that are kids is what that's why I refer to him as an ass clown, because he's just, it wasn't the right thing. I never really, did I ever publicly fucking say anything about it? No. But around small circles, around, football guys, around other guys that you play ball with, play New York, New Jersey game with, I play in the All-American game in Florida. Like, those are the guys where you confide in the stuff because they've been there and done it. They all play D1 ball. They all played high level. They know how it works. And you know what? To your point, it is a business, but you're also dealing with kids. And you're dealing with kids that, exactly, they're sitting in your living room telling you they're going to take care of you. And is it their fault that they got fired? Is it their fault that they didn't win? You know what? There's a lot of factors that go into it. At the end of the day, you can't hold these kids hostage at a place that they didn't even decide that they wanted to go with this particular coach. Like, you got to be able to train. I think they have loosened the rules over the years. This was just during my time that I personally experienced that couldn't even transfer in conference. I think now there's a whole transfer, like now it's like really official now with a transfer portal. Like, all right, this guy's going to be moving into the transfer portal. It's this quarterback from Oregon or this, so it's a little bit
It's better.
It's definitely better, but at the same time, I think they're loosening up. They understand, man, you can't do this. You can't do this to kids.
It's a lot though too. You're uprooting your life and you're young.
Yes.
You're not a professional. You're not 25 or 30 or whatever. And like, this is just how it works. You're young. You're out of your house for the first time. You're on a college campus, which is like this enclosed community. And suddenly, like, boom, you have to leave here. You have to leave all your friends. You have to leave the thing that you sat there and signed your letter of intent to commit to go somewhere else. I mean, the onus, not the onus, the higher pressures of the situation are on the kid there. Because now it's like, well, fuck. And you got to go keep getting your goddamn degree the whole time. What program are you going to go into? It's such a crazy concept to me. And I'm glad you speak up about it, because guess what? It fills in blanks too. When Doug Marrone went to the NFL, let's give him some credit here.
Oh, yeah.
When he came into Syracuse, despite the fact he was
Syracuse
Hitler, he turned it around a little bit. I shouldn't call him Hitler, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, they at least started winning games, and he did get his guys in there. But, he had to leave blood on the streets to do it. And so he goes to the NFL, coaches for the Bills for a couple years, did something shady at the end there to get out of his contract. I forget what it was. It was fucking shady.
It was.
You remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember what
I don't
that
know
was?
what exactly he had to do, but I remember it was like a whole bunch of controversy around it.
Yeah. So if you listen to like the guys that played for him there, they all rip him. Then you watch him go down to Jacksonville and again start to turn around what they were doing there and fell off a cliff. And so you see these guys like the Jalen Ramseys of the world, even the Leonard Fournettes, and what label do they get? Because they're pros. And, with Jalen and Leonard, they do like to talk a lot, entertaining guys, right? They get the label of, oh, they're prima donnas, they're problem childs or whatever. No, I don't think so. I think they've kind of proved that point at this point, because they left the ship. A lot of other people did. No one had anything good to say about him. They're all at least happy where they are now. Fournette just won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady in Tampa. And it's we put these tags on these players, and people don't know what some of these guys are like behind the scenes. And so getting the view into like how he was in college, you think he was going to be any different in the pros? Now he's got the total professional label on it. Of course he's going to be the same. He's going to be worse in the pros.
Mm-hmm. And some guys, I think, I can't, I really don't want to talk about him anymore, because it brings back bad memories. At the same time, like at that point, then I transferred to Hofstra. And
you love Syracuse though, right?
Love
the
Cuse.
school?
I love Cuse, love the school. Met a ton of great people that I'm still best friends with today, like friends forever. And transferred to Hofstra. And as soon as I get there, it's like, okay, we're getting started. So I'm all jacked up. I don't have to sit out at all. I could start playing. And so it's the first couple of games of the year. I ended up breaking my rib, puncturing my lung, catching a ball run down the sidelines, and then I'm out the whole rest of the year.
And you were playing all wide receiver, pretty
wide
much
out.
in college.
Wide out. They were going to start using me like Coach Patnode was the offensive coordinator. He was like, all right, we're going to start using like Wildcat, different things as like using your quarterback skills, stuff like that. In the week, that week of practice, I'm like all jacked up. I'm like, all right, been here for a few weeks. All right, now let's Now I'm finally like getting into the groove. You know,
This is like 2010, something like that?
yeah, 2010.
That's like when Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams in Miami was doing the Wildcat and beat the Pats. Yeah, so this is when that was like the big, everyone's got to do this now.
Oh, yeah. And that's where, so then I get hurt. I'm out the whole year. That off season, they literally canceled the football program. Cancel the program. Like they don't
Gone.
They gone. They don't have a program anymore. They don't have a football team anymore from 2011. Oh no, this is 2010. 2010.
When did that? So is that like right after the season?
That was right after the season. We're getting ready for winter condition. We're getting ready for like off-season workouts. Finish the season. We're getting off-season workouts, and I remember I was in friggin' a math class taking a test, and I get a thing like come down to Margiata Hall, which was the football facility at Hofstra in Long Island, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come down, urgent meeting, urgent team meeting." Walked down there, and by the time I got there, everyone was in the parking lot like crying or like upset because they're like, "Dude, fucking worked my way up all the way. I'm a senior here. Now you're gonna cancel the whole program." You know, it was pretty surreal. Just
Why'd they
this
cancel?
chain of events. I think the new president of the school didn't care for it. Didn't care for football. Didn't care for what it did for the school from a cultural standpoint, from a camaraderie standpoint. Money involved. Yeah, it costs money to run the football program, quite a bit. And he was putting a medical school in at the time. And I feel like that's where things started shifting. I think there was another shift because the Jets left the Hofstra facility that they used to do all of their training camp there, and they ended up moving to Florham Park.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, another big revenue hit to the school and to the program. So I mean, crazy, because I had a bunch of really cool guys that went to Hofstra before me that really were like, "Oh, you got to come. You got to build on that tradition, the wide receiver tradition here."
Yeah, they sent guys to the league.
Yeah, Colston was there at the spring ball game that I attended prior to committing. So like, it was very, very weird. It was a very weird time, because I was just trying to figure out what am I going to transfer again? And pretty much that was one semester.
So you basically decide to transfer like in the summer?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So right after spring ball. So Marrone goes through the whole thing. He tells me, "You're going to be holding bags. You're going to be washing dishes, whatever it may be." I'm like, "Fuck, man, I got to."
And you played in every game as a freshman.
Redshirt freshman, played in every game. Only had a few catches, but
what was your 40?
4.4. Legit.
You were fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a little slower at Syracuse just because I don't even agree with some of the things that in college programs that they do. Like, all right, you got to get underneath the bar. Yeah, you want to put on weight, dude. I'm speed. I'm quickness. I'm agility. I was up to like 185 when I should have been at 175 still. But I still was in top 5 fastest 40s on the Syracuse team, which my boy Art Jones just brought up the other day. Shout out.
Art Jones, there's
Shout
a
out.
throwback. How's he doing?
Shout out, baby. He's doing good.
He had what, like an 8-9 year career in the league?
Yeah, Colts, Ravens, won a Super Bowl.
That is the third brother, Chandler and Johnny Bones Jones, right?
Yep.
Art's their brother?
Yeah.
Wow, so you played with him at Syracuse.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I played with Chandler and Art. So
Oh, you played with Chandler? Fuck yeah. What year was Chandler in the draft?
I think he was 2012. I think he was 2012 or 2013. I could be wrong.
Did
but
he come in with you? Was he in?
He came in the year after. So my redshirt
Got
freshman
it.
year was his freshman year.
And Art's was your.
Art was there prior, so I think Art's 2 years older than Chan.
Oh, so he was the year above you, and then Chan was the year below you.
Yeah.
God, who else did you play with there? There were some good players coming out.
Justin Pugh, my man Pugh.
Pugh. How's he doing?
So I didn't play with him, but he came in after me, and then we became really close friends. Who else? You talking about guys who play in the league, or just
and then even like some guys who might know for whatever reason. Didn't you told me about this? It was like the first business coming out of.
Oh,
coming out-
Marinovich?
Yeah, Todd Marinovich's brother played.
Yeah, Todd
What was his
Marinovich.
name?
Mikhail.
Mikhail. Okay, so he was up at Syracuse too.
Yeah, Mikhail was really good.
Did you meet the father?
Marv, yeah. Dude, I had a little business venture with Marv and Mikhail.
Out of college.
Out of college, yeah. That was pre kind of digital, me with today's business and everything. It was
What, for like a month?
I was still running it when I was with today's business, so there was a lot of riff having that business and another business kind of starting.
Wait. So with the father and Mikhail.
Yeah.
Now, was the father harder than Marrone? That's the real question.
The father just wouldn't. He didn't really talk too much. He was
Really?
very, very to himself, very silent. But that was older in his day. He was old in his days. You know, he was in his probably mid 70s,
And I
late
guess
60s, and he was. I think, pretty much we were trying to utilize his teachings and his trainings to be able to bring them to the masses. I mean, he's trained Troy Polamalu, friggin' BJ Penn, the UFC these are all back in the day when Penn was jumping out of the pool and landing on the outside of the pool. It was like, oh shit. Like, yeah, that's the water workouts that Marv was doing with Tyson.
he was training all these guys.
Yeah, Tyson Chandler, when Tyson was the defensive player of the year with the New York Knicks.
I'm surprised. You know why I'm surprised at that?
What?
Because the story was out on the older son. Because I guess Mikhail was a lot younger than
A
Todd.
lot younger, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Todd was the old. For people that don't know what we're talking about, Todd was.
The Robo QB.
Yeah.
He was the.
And what was the full story there?
Todd was parade All-American. He was the #1 draft pick by the Raiders, which Mikhail's godfather was Al Davis, because Marv was the first NFL trainer. He created the NFL Combine. It was Marv Marinovich.
Marv Marinovich created the NFL Combine.
Yes.
But okay, all right, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Which is pretty crazy to think about. But so Todd was quarterback at USC, drafted by the Raiders, was the, like, I don't know who, like the Peyton Manning, the Andrew Luck, like this was a can't miss prospect. And Marv's teachings and trainings was, as a toddler, he would stretch him, he would train him like literally since he was like a toddler, training him like a maniac, not letting him eat, like he never could have any fast food, Oreos, nothing like that. It was all.
He never ate sugar, I don't think, right?
Never ate sugar.
Like never had it or something.
It was like never in his system. He never provided his son sugar for any, but he was to the 10th degree of coddling and then also grooming him to be the next great quarterback. And lefty, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then, had to, I think he was burnt out, and he was just like, and he went off the deep end. And
I would too, man. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. When you think about it.
It is. And I think Marv definitely didn't take that approach with Mikhail. He kind of let him, to a certain degree, like as he was growing up, he was very strict. Then he kind of loosened the reins up because he saw what happened with Todd, that he didn't want that to happen with Mikhail. So
There's a great 30 for 30 on that.
oh, unbelievable 30
that?
for 30. Yeah. Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
I'm like,
yeah.
I have a lot of respect for that guy, for Todd Marinovich, because mentally, not to totally rain on his dad here, but let's just call it what it is. Mentally, that is to know, like, once you get out into the world, like even just going to college and seeing what else is out there, and like something as simple as seeing someone else eating sugar. It's, the tree of life mentality of like, well, what the fuck have I been doing? That's going to play with your head.
Oh, yeah.
And he went to some dark places, and obviously his career didn't pan out because of it, because, as you said, he just burnt out and I guess had some drug problems and stuff. But,
Yeah.
He's had his life in order for a long time now, and I'm really, I walked away from that documentary with a lot of respect for that guy, because he's not bitter.
No.
He's I forget what he does now, but he's like a pretty successful guy. And that's hard, because that's ingrained in you,
Yeah. And, rest in peace to Marv Marinovich, who just passed away recently.
He did.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Not a few months ago.
Yeah. Wow.
So, But it was there's a lot of great people that came through Cuse. I mean, the Jones brothers, huge.
What a family.
Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. I mean, there's so many great guys that came through that organization. Tony Fiammetta. Oh,
Yeah.
he was a monster.
Were there guys, like whether it be a Chandler or an Art or somebody like that, when you came onto campus and you're watching guys for the first time, is there something in your eyes that goes, Sundays?
That happened to me with DeLon Carter. He was a running back. He played in the league for 4 or 5 years. He was like Mr. Ohio. You just look at him and you're like, uh-oh, that dude had, I don't know what they call it, popcorn muscles. Like, there was muscles on top of muscles, and you're like, oh. And he doesn't even, like, he was working hard, but, like, he couldn't work that hard because he would have been too big to be able to be that fast and strong and break tackles and make moves. Like, so, but you saw that guy and you're like, he's going to be in the league. And he was.
Yeah. It's,
for a long time.
And it's kind of crazy too, because you watch high school football games and stuff, and sometimes there's like a sophomore playing or a freshman. You got an O lineman who's like 5'10", 185, and then you get to like D1. And if an O lineman walks on there at like 6'3" and 270, get to the calf and start eating, pal. Like you're gonna have a problem here. You better start doing your squats and lifting. It is a whole different level. And then that's why, they say every play is like a car crash, because it's just huge humans hitting each other.
Yeah. You're just having freaking collisions every freaking play. Yeah. I don't even want to think about my brain and CTE.
Dude, I think your brain's I've known you for a long time now. I think your brain operates pretty well.
It's all right.
I've never noticed you like zoning out or anything like that, or not talking really, really fucking fast, So, but it's true. I mean, there's a lot of guys,
it's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
And it's a lot of positions too. It's not just linebacker or D-line or, O-line or running back. It's a lot of another thing we were talking about, Chris Henry, who's buddies with Grant.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Chris Henry. He was the first guy, because he tragically died very young. I believe he was the first guy who they confirmed had CTE, because he died in 2009 when they were first studying what this could be. And his mom was nice enough to donate his organs for other people to have transplants, and donate his brain to study his brain. And he was a stretch the field wide receiver. He wasn't, this guy wasn't, he wasn't getting hit that hard all the time. And even he had it. That's creepy.
Because X amount, you're only seeing, think about it, you're practicing, I would say 10 times more than you're playing.
Yeah.
In football, you don't realize it, but you play for a few hours on a weekly basis. Never mind what goes into spring ball.
Yeah.
You're practicing and playing and hitting each other, really doing hitting drills. I know they've limited a lot of that over the years now, because it's too much.
What was it like when you were there? Were they starting to pay attention to that, or was it? Yeah, it was
Not
still
at all. Not at all.
Still just get out there and hit a motherfucker.
And one of my best friends, I talk to him all the time, and he was like, and he played linebacker, and he's like, but do you understand if they're like, all right, run it back, when I am the middle linebacker, and you have Tony Fiammetta, who is a battering ram.
Yeah.
The guy was, I looked at him and said he was one of those guys that you're like, he's playing in the league. And he did for a number of years. Cowboys, bunch of different teams. The guy was a monster. So
he was big, man.
So your job is, in practice, they're like, okay, we're going to run ISO. Okay, it's coming. It's just the inside drill. So there's no the wideouts, the DBs, everyone is doing one-on-ones, or they're doing, scale drill where we're running patterns and they're doing covering and stuff like that. This is inside drill. So he's like, okay, we're going to do an ISO. So he's the middle linebacker, and Tony Fiammetta goes through the hole, and you're like, all right, he's going to come and hit me. And he's running full speed at me. Boom, boom, boom. And you're like, okay, run it back. So he's just going to run right at me and clock the shit out of me. And I got to stand here like a wall and take this. Boom, boom. I'm like, you're ringing. Your head is ringing. Your body is, you're like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And no one has anything, and all they do, keep taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, painkillers. That's just how you shouldn't deal with that. And then guess what?
And people blame him for that, but it's like, what would you do? You know?
And then the coach is in your face screaming, "Get up, let's go!"
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But then guess what? That's on a Tuesday. That's a random Tuesday.
Yeah.
What's happening on Wednesday? What's happening on Thursday? Friday's the walkthrough. Saturday's the games. Then you're in the game.
Yeah, then you're...
Never mind on what's on Wednesday, what's on Thursday, and you're just like, oh wait, I got to stand here by a guy who's 240 running a 4.4. I don't even know what the force, or maybe Amazon Web Services now has the freaking analytics on, like...
They definitely do.
My brain just moved 10 times.
Yeah, man.
So you get shook up. I'm... This is a constant discussion in my house on kids. Do our kids play football?
Well, you played from the time you were what?
Like 2 years old. That's why I know I have, like, we got the videos. Shout out Fairfield Falcons.
You play for the Fairfield Falcons?
Yeah. Oh, no. We were on like the D team. I don't even know what they called us, but we were in the Fairfield League. My dad created a little league over there with like 100 other fathers.
Of course he did.
And we ended up beating like the older Fairfield Falcons when we were like 2 or 3 years old. We played like the 5 and 6 year olds, beat them up.
Oh my God.
But I don't even know if he did have consent forms by the fathers.
Yeah.
I think it's statute of limitations now over 20 years because he does have the videos. We haven't watched those videos a number of years, so I know we would like to start getting those out there on YouTube. I think mothers and women would have a hard time watching 2 or 3 year olds like tackle and beat the shit out of each other.
At least it's and not that it's good. At least it's 2 and 3 year olds though. When you're 2 300-pounders coming at each other.
You're right. The force. That
it's not good, but
no.
You know what I mean. It's different.
No, you're freaking like you're a baby.
Yeah. It's not quite there. But I've talked to a lot of guys who, whether it be friends or people I meet who maybe play at the collegiate level and stuff, and they talk about maybe when they're like a year or 2 out from playing, and they're lucky enough to not really be like damaged, and their head clears, and they're like, "The fuck? What is this?" They never felt it before because they've been playing football since they were 10 years old. And they never realized there's like that fog there because every day it's like hit, okay, hit. The way they get through it, especially in college, I mean,
it's
you smoke weed at night. That's pretty much like how you keep yourself
You can't do that
clear.
in college. You're getting drug tested.
You couldn't do that in college?
No.
I mean, they've been drug testing forever, but everyone smokes. All the football players smoke weed.
I know. They do, and it's coming out now. Like more and more are coming out saying they do, but college, you're getting drug tested, man. You're getting thrown off the team. A lot of guys got thrown off the team.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They rather give you painkillers at that time. This is all...
Yeah, I guess so.
2008, 2009.
Painkillers and shit? Ugh.
What else are you providing someone that's having chronic friggin' neck pain? Never mind your head when you're hitting people like this on a daily basis, but your back, your knees, your ankles, your whole body, you don't... That's when you talk to guys who play ball, they're like, all right, are you healthy? And then you show the injury report like, oh yeah, I'm healthy. No, I'm questionable. I'm probable. Like, dude, if they're saying you're healthy, you got a bunch of nicks and bruises. You're not going out there like, all right, we're in the middle of summer. Like, all right, I'm good. No, you're beat. Your body is beat up, man.
Yeah, and some of the injuries these guys play through, it's terrible for you, but it's amazing.
It is amazing. The willpower, the type of just strength, mental strength that they have throughout this whole thing to be able to go out there and play at the level that they play and withstand the type of injuries that they have and play through them is incredible.
And again, I think we've come back to this point like 5 times, but prime example, the cattle mentality with the coaches. Like, oh yeah, you're a little nicked. You're good. Get back out there. Like, what? I remember one time my buddy Meat. It's exactly what he sounds like.
Yeah.
He was one of the most athletic people I've ever seen in my life. Like straight up hillbilly athleticism, like from the country. Just naturally, probably when he was 3, picked up a bar and squatted it. And I never watched a video because I didn't even have access to it, but there was a video of him in practice with his knee where somehow, because he's a freak, squatted like 700 pounds. He was insane.
Yeah.
Somehow, not every single ligament in his knee tore. He probably like slightly tore his MCL and some of the, not the ACL, but the other ones.
Yeah.
But his knee, they were telling me, went back like a toothpick. And he was like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, my God. Comes off the field. They wrap it in ice. And that's like a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
On Friday, they're like, so you good? You good to go for tomorrow? He's like, you fucking kidding me? I've been walking around on crutches all week. I'm in an ice thing. They're like, yeah, we can take the crutches off. You'll be good. A little tore it all, whatever. You'll be fine. Yeah. He's like, no. But the next week, playing. That's, to me, I'm just, and I'm amazed by it, but that's so, it does not sit right with me. It just straight up doesn't. It's one, if it's your career, all right, you make that decision, fine, you're making millions of dollars. If you're making
money, and I was like, oh, you're getting a scholarship, dude. You can learn more on YouTube now, man, than a $250,000 or $300,000 bill from a university.
Couldn't agree more. And I assume you're completely in favor of some of the light legislation we've now gotten. It needs a lot more, but the early legislation here that says that college athletes can earn money on their individual brand.
Huge. Yeah. I'm all behind it. I know Cali and in Florida have stepped up, but it's the name, image, and likeness.
What does that apply to? So, like, what's an example?
I think it's all through on social, and being able to promote brands, being able to promote companies, being able to generate money through your own YouTube, through your own Instagram, through these social media platforms that you wouldn't notoriously be able to make any money off. You wouldn't even be able to take a ride from somebody. The NCAA wouldn't even let you take a ride from somebody. So say if we were going out and we were going to a restaurant and a friend's father or somebody wanted to, like, hey, I'll drive you guys over there. Technically, you're not allowed to even jump in a car with somebody to take you somewhere. So the NCAA has made a lot of strides, probably not to their own liking, obviously, but they've had to adapt to the times. Yeah. Where these kids, you couldn't get it. They wouldn't allow you. They wouldn't allow you to get the job. They wouldn't allow you to earn any money if you're an athlete. Because think about athletics, like 100 hours a week just to play ball.
I just thought of this one, though. Because hypothetically, an athlete could get a job on campus as a barista or something, but they have no time to do that.
They don't have time to do that. And then
could they do that?
From the football team at Syracuse, none of those guys had jobs. At Hofstra, there was a couple guys that worked for the school. You're right. But if I was at Syracuse at Hofstra and I want to get a job at like a local car dealership, like washing cars, I don't think you were able to do that.
So, all right, I'm just thinking of this on my head. I've never thought about this one, but it seems like second nature now. Let's say I was a high school football player 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever.
Yep.
And on the side, I had a YouTube channel in high school where I made money because I had over 1,000 subscribers, and whatever I did wasn't football, something else.
This happened. You got to look it up. It was a guy, I think it was in the UCF team.
Did he have to shut down his channel to go there?
Yeah. He had a YouTube channel which he was making money on, and the NCAA told him either you got to shut down this channel or you can't be on the team.
That is I'm not going to drop a word on that.
No, we don't. We all know what you're about, what you want to say, and it's awful. It's awful. I think they're moving towards a better solution here. I mean,
because they have to.
They have to. This is
They don't want to. I think you said that they don't want to.
No.
I mean, think about the money they make. I've
Jerseys,
never looked at the contracts.
Tickets. But... I mean, television deals, radio deals. I mean, it's just.
You remember the college football video games when they were big growing up? And it wasn't Reggie Bush. It was number 5. What? But you're using Reggie Bush because he's got a 99 rating on everything and it's number 5 and he just won the fucking Heisman Trophy for USC. But Reggie Bush makes no money on that. Oh, and guess what? You know how in December 2005 or 2006, whatever year it was, you remember how Reggie Bush went on stage and was elected the Heisman Trophy winner on national TV and, gave the speech. People were crying. You remember that? Didn't happen.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
You never saw that. It didn't happen because Reggie Bush took a couple dollars.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It pisses me off.
It is. I mean, but then I think about so many other things in life and how it's so backwards, and you're just like, how is this still working? How is this doing? Why? How is this happening? So when you think about football, and you're like, I can see how it's happening in football. If it's happening in your everyday life on different things that you come in contact with, or just like, you're like, you just can't believe some of the things that went on, that happened. I mean, so if you say, hey, if it's going on in football, it's worse things that are going on, but it doesn't sit well with you. You're not like, all right, this is cool. No, it's just another thing you got to deal with when you're going through life. And I'm sure there's so many different aspects of sports and how it relates. But I think there are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Where if you do sell a particular jersey, you can make some money off your own name.
And anything off the field, you should be able to do. You should have complete control over that.
Yeah, if you want to create your own merch, you want to do something, go ahead.
And
if you want to have your own YouTube channel.
Exactly.
Come on.
Let's go conservative and let's say stuff that is not tied to football.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think they should be able to do all of it. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But like if you're going to start somewhere. If someone has like a streaming channel where they're a gamer and they're great at Call of Duty or Fortnite or something, that has nothing to do with the football field. They have that is theirs. Mm-hmm. So, and I can only imagine the stories and instances you have, because we'll talk about it, but I think that's where we started this whole rabbit hole on this. But you've lived your life after college and in college around the best of the best and in the athlete circles. But even I, who has not done that, I've heard from some people who know some people, or some people directly who are model citizens who did nothing wrong or whatever, and even they took money in college, and they're like, dude. Like, of course. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope that never gets out. And at this point, they're like, I don't fucking care, because it was years ago or whatever. But they're like, of course we did. I had nothing. I worked a 65-hour-a-week job, and I had nothing. You think if some guy's like, hey, here's 5 G's, and I'm making the school all this money, I'm not going to be like, hey, actually, that sounds great. Of course you're going to do that. There's nothing wrong with it.
No, and believe me, I've had a lot of conversations with guys, played at all different schools, like, do you take it, do you not take it? If you're in a position where your mom can't pay her rent, where your little sister and little brother are living in a house, you're taking it.
And that's life. Like, that one's legit. That is.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're taking it. If you're not, and you know what, you could do this, and you know what, things are all right. You don't want to put yourself at risk. You want to put your family's self at risk, your education at risk, your future endeavors at risk. So, shit. Yeah. All right. No, but if it's on the table, which it's on the table most of the time, you're going to take the money.
Yeah. So you always stayed around the athlete circles, because I guess after Hofstra shut down the program, you didn't transfer again. You called it quits. You
know what? At that point, I was like, I lost so many credits in the same communications program from Syracuse to Hofstra. So it was only one semester. It was only that semester. So if I transferred again, I would have been in 3 schools technically within.
That's a lot.
1 semester.
That's a lot.
And it was like, all right, I'm going to be in school for another 2 years, just taking the same classes that I already took. And I think I was a little burnt out at that point. I was playing ball since I was 2 years old. Getting to, when you're 21, 22, you're like, all right, I worked this hard, got a full scholarship. I got a year and a half left of school. They're going to honor my scholarship. Do I take another scholarship? Because I had a few other places that wanted me to transfer and play there right away.
But you had a couple years of eligibility because you redshirted,
I had 2 years of eligibility left.
Okay, got it.
So, and I probably could have had some leeway with the punctured lung, because I was out that whole year, so I could have got a medical red shirt. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna start focusing on my next, on what I want to do next. So I started taking a bunch of internships. I was taking the LIRR into the city, saying finance. This, do I want to? What do I want to be involved in? What do I want to do? What do I like? Because that's the other thing when you're playing ball. And then say you played for 4 years or 5 years, you had a good college career. All right, he's a good little player. He's got 1,000 yards. This thing, you're not going to play in the league. You're not going to play. You're not going to the next level to play. So then you get out of school and you're like, all right, what am I going to do now? You don't have time to take an internship when you're playing ball.
No,
you don't. You don't have time to take an internship.
60-hour-a-week job.
So more than that, way more than that. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to school. And I'm gonna start taking some internships and getting ready, because plus I was always playing sports. When I was in second grade, I was on the fourth grade team. When I was in fourth grade, I was on the sixth grade. When I was in sixth, I was on the eighth. When I was, we always played up. So I had a lot of friends that were older than me over here. So everyone's out there making money. I'm still in school, and now I'm not playing ball. I'm like, the fuck am I gonna do?
You're thinking about the next move.
I'm like, all right, now wait, they canceled the program. Like, I don't have, like, there's no choice. I'm not thinking about football anymore. That's the only thing I thought about between football and basketball for my whole life. And at that point, the football program's done. I'm not playing basketball in college. All right, what am I, like, that was my life, was sports. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna finish school here, and I'm gonna take some internships and focus on what the heck I'm gonna do after school. And that's what I did. And then started the agency at 2011.
Was it tough having the decision made for you? Like, what did that make it harder? Because it's not like, in a sense, yes, you made the final decision. Like, I'm not going to transfer again. Yeah. Like, this is life, right? Like, this is too much for me. Like, I need to make sure my focus is on education, because you don't know with the next career, whatever. But you didn't cancel the program.
No,
they canceled the program. If they hadn't canceled the program, you'd have still been playing.
Oh, yeah.
And, you were in a big enough school and a great enough player coming from the D1 level that you might have been able to do some damage and take it to the next level. And then suddenly, like, nope, that's gone. So you're sitting there and you're like, well, now they've made this situation so much harder for me. And, this is, again, about my life. And I can't, if I go down this road again, I'm giving up a lot on the education side. I got to redo some stuff. I don't want to do this. And you know what? This is just a sign I got to stop. But again, like, you had to stop because someone else did something. Did that make it harder versus you just saying, hey, it's not in me anymore. I want to go to my next phase of my life?
I don't know if it made it harder or just made it real that it was over. Like, it was just reality. It's like, all right, if I'm not going to go transfer, go to another school, another semester, start all over again. It's tough starting, like, just going to another school, transferring, acclimating yourself to the school, knowing where things are. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's like, people don't like change. People don't, but I would say if I didn't lose all those credits and I wouldn't have been that far back from an academia standpoint, I think I would have continued, but it was just that extra, all right, schools don't want to transfer the credits. They want you to take the credits at the school that you're attending. They don't want to transfer over freaking all your credits from the previous school.
Yeah.
So even at the same programs, they wouldn't transfer it over. Like, so I feel like from that standpoint, and also knowing that, like, it wasn't really my decision, as you're saying, it wasn't my decision to stop playing. It was the controls, bigger powers than I am that put a stop to it. I couldn't watch college football for 5 years. Yeah. I couldn't even talk football. I didn't want to hear anything about football. I didn't want to even talk about football, but that's all I knew. So it was a very weird, because I knew I could have been out there. I knew I could have been playing. And when you're watching college football, you can't even watch Saturdays. You can't talk about it. It's very emotional. My whole life is, you work every day of your life to get to a point where you get this scholarship. And then, as you said, it's taken away from you. Wait, it's not your decision. It's their decision. Your whole life has to change. Your whole motivation, your whole goal setting.
And suddenly you don't have that one constant. And so, and then, and it's not like your body was giving out or anything. You were in your peak. It's like I can go play this better than anyone. So, watching other people do what I love to do and knowing I can't do it anymore because I'm not in a situation where I have the opportunity to, that's hard,
Oh, it sucked.
I mean, there's a lot of guys who, when they retire and they're done, they say the same thing. They still can't watch it for several years because they miss it. It's like this bond you have with it because you were at the top of the class of it.
Never mind exactly what you said. Never mind when you work your whole life for something and you're at like the peak of your performance. You're going to your junior year in college, and then it's like, nope, there's no program here anymore.
It's crazy.
No program? What are we talking about? Wait, I didn't even understand that. I'm like, wait, there's no football team?
So it's gone.
It's gone. Like there's no team here anymore. Like we're literally getting rid of it. It's weird.
But even if you couldn't do it anymore, you kept and this is what you leverage to then jump off of to kind of like build yourself as having buzz around you and also being a guy who knows the guys, right? Mm-hmm. You kept that whole athlete community that you had built throughout your whole life who, when they become successful and become pros and stuff, obviously they get connected to everything, including stuff outside of sports. Like you kept that all around you. And as you were building up today's business for 2-3 years there and starting with the nuts and bolts, the basic content curation and some of the stuff you talked about, like community management, doing
the blocking
things.
and tackling.
Yeah, exactly. So you're building up the basic elements to get to, more things like affiliate and start to SEO and start to move into things that require more expertise or building your own tech like you were with affiliate. At some point there, you started integrating in the athletes. So you started saying like, hey, now some of these guys who I grew up playing with or I played with at Syracuse or I knew on the circuit, even like you played with Gronk in high school at the All-American game, stuff like that. Now they're successful. Let me go use what I use now to leverage to be able to help build them up and also build out through them. So that it seems like that started to happen maybe like 2013, 2014. I think you said that.
Yep.
Maybe you didn't.
Yeah.
But
2013, 2014 we started.
Where did you start basically? Like who did you have to start with? Obviously you're not going straight to like the superstar, you're unproven in the space. Like how does it happen? How do you build the Rolodex? And we'll get to where your Rolodex went.
Yeah. You start building your Rolodex with backup linebackers, backup tight ends, backup long snappers. You build your. It's like, and guess what? What are you doing? Oh, what other athletes do you work with? Oh, work with this guy. Work with this guy. Work with this guy. You're literally talking to and working with, and doing pro bono work for then said athlete because you need clientele to work with from there. Mm. So. A lot of people, it's that discussion about, do you do some pro bono work? Do you do things for free and then give people things for free when it's worth something and you know how much time you're putting into it? Yeah, you have to. I mean, at that, you have to. How do you get expertise and how do you get experience without working on these athletes when they're like, all right, what athletes have you worked with? Nobody. No, you have to do friggin' pro bono work. And then these athletes and entertainers and influencers, they don't want to, they talk and tell everyone, oh, this is my guy. This is who's doing this for me. And then you build up your network through doing good work by people. But
so you go from like the long snapper to the linebacker or something like that.
Yeah,
like
to the starter. Then you go from the linebacker who has 50,000 followers to the wideout who has 200,000 followers. Mm-hmm. And then you go from the wideout to the top 10 guys in the league. Then you go to then you get into the Hall of Famers. Mm. And you're like, oh, wow, now I'm working with some prominent guys that everyone knows in America, that everyone knows internationally. And that's pretty cool when you walk into places and that like, all right, if someone doesn't know my clients, then they're not they're
not for us. We're not working with them. So like who are some of the guys you ended up working with?
So a couple of the big boys that we started working with towards probably 2017, 2018 was Kevin Garnett, Ray Lewis, a couple of like the big Hall of Famers that, hey, if you say, hey, who's the greatest linebacker in NFL history? LT, Ray Lou.
Who you also work with?
Derek Brooks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was smoking a Lucia last night.
LT, baby. I love that he loves Lucias.
Yeah.
That's great. Your dad was on that right away.
Yeah.
Lawrence, you got to try this. You're going to love it. But yeah, but Garnett he was technically a business partner too, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't just a client. You
Wasn't
brought him
just-
into today's athletes.
Brought him into today's athletes as a partner, and then he opened up, like KG has an unbelievable network of guys. So he opened up a ton of doors with, KP, with Rondo, Big Baby, his crew, his guys.
Yeah.
So he's arguably one of the biggest, most competitive guys in the world at his sport. I mean, when you're an MVP, you're a final, NBA champion, you're an All-Star game MVP. Jordan's last All-Star game, KG's the MVP.
You made like 15 of them too. He's on a lot of All-Star teams.
So it's really unique, but you know what? You do good work by people, they refer to you other good people, and you want to keep building that network. That's the same thing in business, same thing with the athletes, the same thing in life, and I think that's just a recipe.
And as you move up, you're not doing pro bono work. You start out with that, and then it gets to the eat what you kill. You bring in deals, you get 20% or whatever the industry rate is on the backside, pretty much, right?
Yep.
So you did that, and then you would do like the personal branding, so content creation,
Branding,
any
press
ad
kits.
decisions.
Ads, events. We help run the Ray Lewis Hall of Fame event in LA. Put all that together, all the creatives, some other marketing material, the guest list. I mean, it was unbelievable who I'm even, rubbing shoulders with at that event, man. It's pretty cool that you could be in those circles, but then not be too, not too fanboy, but at the same time, because you feel like, I feel like I'm at that level when I really never. I'm not even playing the league, bro. I'm not. Who am I? I played a couple years in college ball.
Gives you credibility, though.
You do have a sense of credibility playing college ball, but with those guys, when you're Hall of Famer and stuff like that, it's like it's the next level.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying it's anywhere near that stratosphere, but as far as like
you got some credibility.
Yeah, you're doing business with them, and they're trying to find commonalities and stuff, and they're like, oh, this guy. He played D1 ball. Yeah. Okay, like he kind of gets it. Yeah. Or he played with this guy or knows that guy. Okay, cool. And then they'll kind of talk to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, people want to work with people that they like and that they could trust. You cover those two bases, you're pretty much good, man. You just gotta be likable. You got to be able to tell them how it is in a way that they could respond to it and they see that you want the best for them. You know what I mean? You could tell somebody one thing and they just negative. It's just the response that you get from that person, but you could, in a way, it's all about how you say it and how you deliver it. At the same time, you have to be real with these guys, but you have to deliver good news, bad news, whatever it may be, because there's a lot of communication. So communication is so important with all these guys, and being able to, and have their teams trust you. And it's not just them; they could trust you, but then their manager, their lawyer, their sister, their PR person, their whole team's got to really be on board with you in order to get some of these deals done.
Does that make it a lot harder, though, when there's a million people around? Because, these guys are huge, right? They have everyone coming to them.
You have so many. You have a person for everything. And it does make it harder. But if you've established those relationships with those individuals, I think it also makes it easier because they have familiarity, they have respect for you, they know what you do, they know what you bring to the table and the expertise you bring. So it's like, all right, now I got 4 people. Now it puts pressure on the athlete or the entertainer to be like, oh shit, I got 4 people all being like, you should do this.
Yeah,
you should probably do it then.
Well, the other thing is that whole industry gets and frankly, fairly in a lot of cases, gets a bad rap because there's a lot of sleazeballs. You look around like athlete management or like just athlete marketing and stuff like that. There are a lot of people just looking to be a star fucker, putting their hand in somebody's pocket, and that's where you hear these stories about so-and-so stole money or, fuck somebody over, and that's the unfortunate thing because these guys, their lives are, they have a limited window to be great. And their lives that's what they do, right? They don't have time to sit there and figure. Not everyone's Juju Smith-Schuster, like you said earlier. You know, they're not, and he gets shit for that. You know, sitting there making their creative or being creative in the first place. Like they have a job to do, and they have an ability for a short time to leverage said job off the field to make money. And so when you see all these guys who are constantly taking the Instagram with somebody just to show that they're like in their circle and shit, you know, I've found that any of the athletes I've ever been around, they have a huge, and credit to them, they have a huge radar on that. Like they are very unlikely to trust you or like let you in over a long, and you know, it takes a long period of time because they've seen plenty of their friends get fucked over by people. And so when you're going in there and first establishing relationships, you know, you're going in there with a Kevin or a Ray, like tops of the top, and they already have all these people around them. You know, is it you making the relationships with all those other people, like you said, that kind of gets them, the athlete, to be like, okay, my people think this guy's cool, so he's cool? Or, you know, how much of it is like you one-on-one, just kind of looking them in the eyes and then being like, all right, I trust this guy?
Both.
It's both.
100%. It's both. You got to build that community of was it evangelist?
Yeah.
You have to build that community of people that trust you, that like, dude, I'll fuck with this guy no matter what the fuck he brings to the table. And then you got to look at that athlete or the entertainer in the face and be like, all right, I trust him too. Because if that athlete doesn't trust you, it doesn't matter if there's people around him. But if there's people around them and he trusts those people and they trust you, you got some wiggle. You got some room. You got some room to work with. So I think, you know, these guys have all been burned.
Yeah.
As you get older in life, you're going to get burned. It's just going to happen. Friends, family, you know, it's just business. Friggin' whatever you're going to get into, and someone's going to let you down and someone's going to burn you in some way. But you just got to really look at it from a perspective that, you know what, I'm blessed this happened to me. It did happen this time. And you know what, I'm going to become a better person. Maybe I'm going to trust a little less. Maybe I'm going to do more due diligence on this person before doing business with them. You know, you just become more seasoned as a business person, as a connector, and you kind of go through life where it's you know, you still want to have an open mind and an open heart, but you also want to, you know, you also want to be somewhat guarded in what you're doing. You're not going to be so naive and so trusting to everybody. And that's kind of, you know, what I went through. You know, you go through some struggles, you go through some hard times, you do some, you know, you have some breakups. Well, guess what? It just makes you also appreciate the good people that you surround yourself with, and the individuals that you truly want to fuck with, because those are not commodities. Those are rarities. Those are really, you know, and I've met probably, dude, I've had, at one point it was like 5-6 meetings a day for 10 years. I mean, thousands and thousands of people. We talk about that internship program, probably had 450 interns look up to you as a mentor.
And you guys had a lot of employees too.
Yeah, at one point we had 50.
Yeah, wow.
So it was, you know, there's a lot of people looking up to you. There's a lot of people that are looking for you for help and mentorship. So I think from that perspective, you want to, it's like, you don't want to give them this fairy tale world that this is like, oh, this is great. You know, no one's going to ever screw you or fuck you or burn you. But at the same time, like, you have to kind of give them the hard truth on what's going to happen, how to deal with it, and just keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. I would, you know, and just keep, hey, but it you know, as a young person being, blissfully ignorant.
Yeah, unaware, ignorant.
Yeah, unaware.
Yeah.
You know, I knew football and basketball my whole life. My dad taught me to be a good person, but I didn't know a lot about business. You know, I knew some about business. I didn't know a lot about business. I learned a lot as we created the businesses, as we did the businesses, and as we, you know, did business with all different types of vendors, all different types of partners, referral partners, and all these different types of entertainers, athletes, influencers. So I learned a lot by doing it.
There's a difference when everyone's like on the team when you're playing the sport, right? Like you all have that common goal. There might be, okay, you're a wide receiver, they're linebackers, like they have a little bit of, obviously, like they have their position room, you have yours, but you're all kind of part of the same thing. But I think that's really important what you bring up when you get into business and you have all these moving pieces that are their own islands outside of what you do that you may not even have a close relationship. You just need, right? You have this vendor that handles this thing that you rely on like oxygen every day. And then if they fuck up, well, that's a problem. And shit, we haven't even talked with them in 3 years. You know, it's, to your point, like we always like to make sports parallel with things and parallel with business, and it is. Don't get me wrong. But there are enormous differences that you can only learn once you do it.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. And you don't really think about it too much, but it's like kind of like if you're a business owner and you outsource one service line of your business, that's kind of like having your offensive coordinator not in your own facility.
Yeah.
It's kind of having your defensive coordinator, you know, not at your home field when you're calling defensive plays. You're like, all right, this is our partner over there. We got to make sure that they're going to execute the same way that we're pitching this.
And you were learning your products coming in there too. You were
and they're
like,
trying to figure out the industry.
What are we going to do?
What the hell? What are we doing?
That is awesome.
So it was so much fun. Awesome learning the whole digital landscape, being able to really know the nuances behind it, the programs that you use, not to use, the people to work with. I mean, it's unbelievable. The last 10 years just going through everything. People say, I mean, what did I learn in college though? I don't know. I learned how to, network a little bit, but my dad's been teaching me how to network since I was born out of the womb. You know what I mean? Like, met good people, definitely friends forever. So I think that certain things, I just don't know what I learned there that has applied to me being like a successful, business person.
Not that I was at college with you or know it, you really studied or what it was like in the classroom, but just like blind look and seeing what you've done and how you've done it, you didn't need a day at college. Because everything that you've done in your entire career is always like new school stuff. So it's things that are in the ether and things that are kind of in culture that you learn hands-on. They're not, well, now they do, but they're not teaching social media courses at college until a few years ago, long after you were gone, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then to your point, you were connecting your whole life. You had the best example of all time, your dad. And that just carried right over. You didn't need to go to college to know how to do that. You were doing that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of arguments now, like what is the worth? And especially these people paying like $200, $300 for 4 years of school.
Kills me.
It's a prime example because everything you did was experiential. It was like, oh, well, we fucked that one up, or, oh, we got that one right. Let's do that again, And then like, oh, so that's how that works with business, And I don't want to shit on education or anything, but we have to come up with some kind of balance here where it's like, well, okay, the people who are going to be doctors, they need medical school.
Yeah.
People are going to be lawyers. Yeah, I think they should probably go to law school, right?
Of course.
There's some obvious ones, but then there's a lot of gray area where we got to be like, well, what are we really applying here? Mm-hmm. Like I could see people in the creatives who or maybe go to film school and stuff like that, and they learn a lot there, right? They learn from great directors and shit. But what was a communications major doing for you to do this?
That's what I'm saying. And then when you're coming out of school making 40, 50,000 and you have 200 plus in debt, I don't know. It seems a little backwards in the arena that I'm in the digital, in that world, social marketing, digital marketing. Like you weren't learning about this in school, especially at the time. Now I think there is some courses over the last few years. But in that space, it's like, what did I just pay $200,000, $300,000? What did I get at? Like, you always want to look at your ROI. If you're spending money on digital ads, it's like, what's my return on ad spend? What's my return on investment? What's my return on investment? That's literally like all you hear about when you get into business, because when you're talking to people, all right, what am I going to get out of this? All right, well, you know what? We're going to, build this website for you. Then we're going to create some other lead pages. Then we're going to, run some advertising, run them through the funnels, like, okay, but that's the ROI. What do you get from school or communications programs? What you're going to get an ROI coming out of school right now. It's not a positive ROI for 10 plus years. And what is it? Time is the most valuable asset.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty scary.
It is. But I appreciate what you said a couple minutes ago a lot, because I think that's a great perspective to look on things, where you talk about, hey, these 10 years taught me a lot, and it's been a hell of a ride. And you said something like that. And, talk about being burnt as well, and the difficulties you've insinuated about when you're breaking up a business, especially when you founded it with people, and it was your baby, and you took it from the basement, literally, into a multi-million-dollar business, working with Hall of Famers and on all these fronts. I mean, it's a hell of a story, and it makes it all the more harder to leave that. And I want to get to that and talk about that. What I will say as a note, you and I obviously talk all the time. We've been waiting to have you in here until this was all legally finished and everything, naturally, and finally it got done, and so we can talk. So so far this has been a great conversation, and we're going all over the place. I love it. We're probably going to be talking for a while longer, so I don't know where I'm going to pick up the beginning of this podcast, so I don't want to repeat anything. I'm just thinking out loud right now. My guess is we'll probably, I don't know, we'll see where it picks up. So some of the context here, in case it was not at the very beginning, where I know we mentioned some stuff because we were talking for a long time. This was 10 years, I believe, like 9-10 years you had this, and you started the process to leave about a year and a half ago. And again, very successful. That's not the issue. Making great money over there and working with some crazy people. But what was the motivating factor, turning 30 and going, hey, I built this great thing. I have all these things going, but this ain't it. I got to go and do something else for myself here.
I think lack of alignment on vision moving forward. Because did we have a vision when we first started?
No.
It was just like, shit, let's sign some clients. Let's make some money. Let's get out of my parents' basement. Like, let's get an apartment. Let's
survive.
Let's survive. Yeah. Like, I got to prove to my parents that, like, I don't need to go get a 9-to-5. Like, I can make it on my own without getting a job and being able to move out, So, lack of continuity on the vision moving forward, I think, was the ultimate factor. Is that, you have to be on the same page with your partners and your individuals that you start something with. And I think after that long a period of time, we had an amazing run. But I think at that point, it was an inflection point of like, okay, where are we going? We're going this way. We're taking the path to the left. We're taking the path to the right. Where are we really going with this? And we just weren't on the same page. And if you're not on the same page, how, if, it's like, all right, if you're the head coach, then you have we're keep going back to football, basketball, whatever.
Great analogy for this.
Yeah. If you're a head coach, but your offensive coordinator is going one way, your defensive coordinator is going the other way, or you have a co-head coach, and you guys just aren't on the same page, you said it, are we going to be a run and shoot team, or are we going to go West Coast? Do we have a running back that's going to be a bruiser like a Fournette, or do we have, I don't know why I'm saying Cadillac Williams, but I love Cadillac Williams. And they both played on Tampa, totally different, maybe in different decades. Yeah. But, it's like, how are you going to play? Are you going to play fast pace? Are we, if it's at a basketball team, love basketball, probably just as much as football, if not more. Are we going to play fast? We're going to play slow. Do we have a good center? Are we going to throw it into post a lot, like an Embiid? Or are we gonna be more of like the Warriors, and we're gonna be able to move and shake and be able to really kind of shoot the three ball a little bit better than we don't really have that guy that we could throw to in the post and he could do it, and he could go one-on-one for us and then be able to make decisions from the post there. You got to play differently, and unfortunately the visions were just going different directions where it was best that we went in our separate directions.
What was your vision? Like what? And that's a loaded question. So.
Yeah. I would say the vision, I said, I really wanted to go more towards the video route. I think that's where things are going. I think that's where, content is really, content is being consumed through video. I still love the athlete space. So I really want to go through video, multimedia, podcasting, and really put like 100% of my 100% into that space, into like a nice, a cool pub where you're putting out good content,
True content creation.
True content creation. That's really where I felt that our brand needed to kind of go down that route. But the partners really weren't feeling that space. They didn't believe in video, didn't believe in kind of where I thought things were going.
Right. And I know that's like a kind of a generalization, but I understand exactly what you mean. There's like, how
are you a production house? Are you a content creation place, or are you, or are you still with, from the and I believe me, the SEO is a core part of the business. Social is a core part of the business. I felt that we could have incorporated pretty much everything with a video production component, because we still have probably 30% of our clients are doing social with us, and being able to create that multimedia, push it out through their social, push it out through their channels, build up our own asset. And I talk about this all the time with different athletes, influencers, stuff like that. Like when you're building up an Instagram page or you're building up your Facebook page, it's fantastic. I think believe me, that you need to utilize those platforms. But if you're going to continue to build on those platforms and not build on your own assets, whereas like your own website, your email list, your phone, your contact list, those things,
huge
as you move. So you're going to go from, okay, I'm on Facebook. Okay, Twitter's out now. Okay, now I have to go to Instagram. Now I have to go to Pinterest. Now there was Tumblr along the way. There was, Reddit communities. There's all these different communities, TikTok communities now. And now I'm on Clubhouse. Great. Use all of those to continue to build your database of owned assets where you could drive them to your site, similar to what you're doing here with Trendifier, and being able to own those assets and say, hey, if I send an email out to 1 million people, we're gonna see a lot more to that 1 million people than if I had 1 million followers on Twitter right now.
Don't spread yourself too thin. Yeah, dude, that is music to my ears listening to that, because especially like the influencers, they don't, and the athletes too, let's just throw them in there. They don't think about this. They're like, oh yeah, I have my X amount of followers on Instagram. That's what I love. Well, what if people move off that platform? What if you get kicked off that platform? I mean, who the fuck knows these days, right? You don't have that. I heard Mark Cuban talking about this a few months ago with Bryce Hall on a podcast. The Anthony Pompliano and Bryce Hall have a podcast where they bring on people to teach Bryce about business, because he's like 20 years old or 21 and like this influencer on TikTok and Instagram and everything. And Mark Cuban was telling Bryce, he's like, what's your email list like? And Bryce is like, I mean, the kid's 21. He just built all these millions of followers. Not his fault or anything, but he was like, I got a little one or whatever. And Mark's like, well, listen, I would make sure I built that up, because you can take that anywhere, and then you can get people to come wherever you're going to go. Because if you get off these platforms, or like they suddenly aren't there, you're done. Those people, they don't know where to find you. They're not going to go out of their way to do it, because they got other people. They got a lot of clutter in their life. And I'd never heard it put that simply, and I was like, damn, no, that's more important than ever now. Yeah, he's spot on.
So that's where I saw the vision going, is that we need to create our own assets. And I thought the best way to create our own assets was to have this production where we could do a lot of production for ourselves, but then also sell that to the athletes, the influencers, the brands. And then we could be like, okay, come to our studio. We'll bring in said athlete. Here's said product. Boom. And you could go to that brand and be like, hey, we have this content. How much what would you guys pay for that content? Oh, you'd pay $3,000 for that content? Okay, done. It's already been shot. You're selling things, and you don't need to, all right, we have to set up this. We need to pay, but because we had those relationships. You can't do that without those relationships. You can't do that without the space. We had over 5,000 square feet of space that we can use. You know what I mean? That's where I think things were really going, and we could have been kind of trailblazers by by doing that.
You saw yourself as having built inroads in some of the hardest places to build inroads, and the star power around that, and the value you were adding there, and saying, we can capitalize for our guys, and then they're going to want their guys for us to provide the same type of service and be able to do it in a way where we're not just going at the commoditized things like SEO, or, I mean, this is what it is. SEO is a commodity. There's a lot of SEO people out there.
There's a million SEO people.
Yeah, and look, are there a million athlete and influencer marketers out there?
Yes.
Sure. How many of them get into the circles you got in? And then also the key differentiating factor, the intuition and creativity. Mm-hmm. And also to put on top of it what you did, which is understanding exactly the things outside of that are important, and organizing it to make sure that, like, hey, Kevin Garnett, Ray Lewis, what's your email list like? What is your newsletter list like? Okay, have you thought about doing X type of content that could then generate these people for you to get eyeballs on and own that asset forever, so that no matter where you have to go, you now have it. That's a good vision, man.
Access.
That's the word.
I think we had we failed at executing on the access that took us 10 years to build. And I think that was something that was really tough for me to swallow, because you do so much pro bono work, you do so many different things throughout the years, and so many little things that nobody sees. All those little things that you're running around doing this or doing that, no one sees it. And I felt like there was a failure to execute on an opportunity with the access that we had at that time. And I think that was we just didn't have the same vision, man.
It's tough because when you're 22 and you don't even have a business, you don't even know what your business needs to be, and you're trying to put food on the table. Like, all right, how are we going to survive? You can't really know. And it's not like you guys did something wrong with that. You were just responding to the times. Like, oh, shit, college is over. Like, we got to do something with our lives, right? And you're figuring it out. But it's so important as you go in business that the communication is constantly there. And you are constantly, as new things come up and new opportunities come up, you're constantly having the conversation around direction. Because the farther along you get and the bigger you get, the more money that's coming in, the more difficult it is to leave, the more difficult it is to split, the more difficult it gets to make the decision to be like, yo, this isn't right. And I think, having a front row seat to your whole situation, and then you ending up having to leave there, and the divorce that was, which you can get into as much of that as you want to, or not as much of that as you want to, whatever. I'll respect it either way. You don't have to say anything here that you're not comfortable with. But getting to that point, it took a long time. It took a long time to accept it too. And then you're so, and there's a lot of money coming in too. You're so deep that it gets hard to just be like, oh, I got to make this decision and go.
At that point, you're not 22 anymore, and you don't have, you have a wife, you have bills. It's there's a lot of decisions that need to be made that go into it. But when you think about it, what's the ultimate decision? Happiness. Mm-hmm. So if you're not really happy in what you're doing because there's a divide in the vision of where you want to take the business, then you just have to be like, what? I just want to, all right, what? I want to be happy. And you have discussions about it. You have discussions with your partners and communicate that to your partners, saying, what? I'm just not really happy where things are going. What can we do? How can we make things better? How, you have to address those things. You have to bring them to the forefront. You're not going to hide them like a little child and freaking pant and scream and cry and shit like that. No, you have to fucking have hard conversations. And those are the things that you have to do, and you have to learn how to do. So I think that also, you through tough times, you just learn that you have to do certain things that you're not really comfortable doing. Do I want to confront my partner on this? Do I want to talk about this? Is this the right time to talk about it? We just got out of a meeting where we lost a client or we gained a big client. Is this the time to bring up something that I'm not happy about when you just signed a $20,000 a month client?
Right. Yeah, it's hard.
What do you mean things aren't going good?
There's money. Yeah.
So, but I think ultimately you got to be happy in what you're doing. You got to feel a sense of accomplishment on a daily basis. I think that's something with me that I like on a day-to-day basis. If I'm not accomplishing something, you're hard on yourself. And that's, I think, any good business guy, any good salesperson, any good entrepreneur, if they're not upset that they didn't accomplish more that day, they're just like, oh shit, I did great today. All right, I'm good. That might be if you're in a 9 to 5 or you're somewhere where you're not striving to take it somewhere, or what's the next step, or what's the next level, or what's the next milestone I'm going to hit, then maybe you're content with some things. But as an entrepreneur and as a, somebody who's, you're going to own your own business, you're going to start your own page on Instagram, you're going to do that. Like, you're like, all right, well, I gained 200 followers today. All right, well, guess what? I'm gaining 400 tomorrow. All right, I need X amount of interactions. I need X amount of views on my podcast. There's milestones and there's things, and it never stops. I know, as I talk to you and on a day-to-day basis as a very close friend, like I'm like, oh shit, like this motherfucker doesn't stop. 7 days a week, you don't even know what day it is. You're like, all right, wait, what's today? Oh, it's Wednesday or Thursday, because you're so locked in. There's so many edits you have to perform. There's so many hours it goes into watching this 3-hour podcast that you're making edits, you're looking at, you're evaluating, it's endless amount of time. Endless amount of time that goes into what you built here is this awesome community of people coming on your show to talk to you about the most intimate things in their life, their business, their work, their personal life. So I think from somebody who just wants to always, do better or get better every single day, you're never satisfied. I don't know. I'm just, you make a couple of deals, you sign a couple of things, great. It lasts for like a couple hours, For me personally, it's like, okay, you just got a deal done, or working with a client. Okay, I'm happy about it, but I'm not like, oh man, I could relax now. I don't know, maybe another few years as I get Cervino Co. really built up, and I'm like, this is nice. I doubt it though.
You know what though? This is important though, because you're experiencing this now too, because it's yours, right? Like, it's got your name on it. You're the decision maker. You have the flexibility and everything. And you were just making the point about my podcast. That's the lucky thing I had with this too. There's not cooks in the kitchen here. Mm-hmm. The only person that needs the vision technically is me. And then obviously I want my guests to believe in it too, right? Yeah. But they're one by one. There's a lot of them coming in. So at the end of the day, the decisions are on me, and the fuck ups, the things that go right, it's on me. So I at least have that, and I don't have the stress of thinking about, does this person completely agree with this decision I'm going to make or this direction I want to take stuff? You didn't have that luxury. That's a
day-to-day with like 50 decisions every single day that you're making.
Yep.
And it's not even big decisions. It's like, all right, what food are we ordering for the holiday party?
Well, if that was a legit problem, then that was a sign right there. Let's be honest. Like, if you were deciding on if you were fighting over what you're ordering in food in the office, I mean, like that's kind of it right there.
Yeah, it wasn't like that specifically, but yes, there's so many decisions, and if you're not on the same page, if you're don't have the same vision on the overall vision on things, then yeah, it's going to be hard to get through even some of those day-to-day questions that go on, decisions that you have to make.
Now, when you went to leave there, though, obviously, I mean, I don't know exactly how long that was brewing or what your thought process was, but you talk about this lack of alignment. Did you try to get them on the same page as you, or come to their page a little bit? Like, did you try to communicate that over a period of time, or was it kind of like, hey, I see this is just going in a different direction, so I'm outie?
I think I tried to communicate as much as I could that I wasn't happy where things were, or I wasn't on the same page as the guys. And I think I made that clear quite a few times. We had some long heart-to-hearts, train up to Boston, train back. Like, we had some serious like sessions where we're just trying to figure out some common ground, trying to figure out how we could move forward. And, I think there was a lot of discussions about it, and unfortunately, we just couldn't get on the same page. I mean, all right, I'm gonna try this. You're gonna try this. Let's see if we can make it work. Okay. In order, like, it's either this. This is you have to. There's a couple different things that were like drawn in the sand. We're like, okay, we could. There's different things that we could do to make it work, and then there was like, this is a make or break. Either this changes, or I'm out. And I pretty much said that a few times, multiple discussions about it. And ultimately, we were trying to do what's best for the business and for all of us. If I'm unhappy, that's not good for the business. That's not what's best for the business. And if my partners aren't happy, that's not what's best for the business too. We wanted, at the end of the day, I think that's what good partners do. That's what good businessmen do, is that they never put themselves before the business. So, and their own personal matters before the business. It does get harder as you get older because you have a lot of personal responsibilities as you get older, rather than when you're 21 starting a business out. And what personal responsibilities you have at 21? There wasn't.
Nothing.
It was, how do we make some money so we can move out of our parents' house? So I think we had a ton of discussions, and we just couldn't agree. We couldn't agree on where to move forward, on who to move forward with. Disagreements with management, different agreement with style, just a lot of different things that, you're a different person when you're 22 rather than 32.
Yeah,
It's just you get older and you're friggin', there's different factors too. People are married, everyone's wife has their opinion on different things. Everyone's parents then have more opinions on things. When you're younger and you're 21, 22, you're like, Ma, let me just figure this out.
Fuck it. We're just going.
Yeah. When you get older, there's so many different factors. You have different mentors that you've leaned on for years. There's different people that you look to for help and advice, and everyone's given every partner maybe different advice. And it's not a bad thing, but everyone's trying to, do what's best for the business, but then also keep their personal agendas at bay. Yet, like, their personal agendas are important as well. Like, you want them to be personally happy and feel personally successful at the same time that the business is successful. So dealing with a lot of personalities, and I think that's just about as hard as about anything. Signing a client can be, pretty easy in some respects, rather than, just being on the same page with the people that you do business with every day.
Once you sign them, what do you do? That whole situation, like, well, what are the services we're providing? What are we looking to do long term? Yeah, I love that you bring up alignment as the main thing, because unfortunately, that is what leads to people going their separate ways and all the things that can come with that, the behind the scenes, the drama, the difficulty, the breakup, the divorce that it is. But it's not like you were doing anything wrong coming out, because as we said now like 6 times, you had to put food on the table, and then you had to find your way into it. But it takes a lot of balls to get to that point and then hit the button and move on. And for you, I felt like from the outside, kind of watching this unfold, which you don't expect that to ever be coming. I would have never, three years ago, I would have never seen that coming for you. What you guys were building was fucking unbelievable. But you never know what's going on back there. So for you, it seems like to me, you look at business as relationships. You look at business as, before I figure out what I'm going to do for you or what you're going to do for me, do we fuck with each other on a personal level? And do we have our best interests at heart, right? So whether that be forming a relationship with a CEO or an athlete, it's the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I've always been in awe of that, for how you do it and how effectively you do it, and how people from all different backgrounds, before they even know what you can do, want to do business with you. They're like, Chaz, just figure something out. I'm in. And that's hard, because then you can spread yourself thin. Mm-hmm. And so now I see you coming out with Cervino Co., which we might have talked about that. We've been talking all goddamn day. We might have talked about that at the beginning. It's probably not on this podcast, because that was hours ago, when we were just like bullshitting. But if it is, sorry for the repeat. Like, with Cervino Co., you're coming out here and it's yours. like we talked about. You're the one making the decision, and you're also coming at it from like a consultant realm. So what are some of the things you're looking to do right now, and how's it set up in your mind at this new beautiful birth of a company?
Yeah, I think, it's different. It's a lot different than having an agency that I've had before, just in terms of that if you sold certain things at one point that you weren't selling before, you could then dictate or talk, tell your team internally, this is what we have to do for this particular client. So it's a little bit different that I need to have my team behind me, the subcontractors, the individuals that will be handling a lot of the day-to-day. I need to be strictly, very aligned with them. So the Cervino Co. is on my name, but I will also be doing business with a lot of other businesses in terms of getting a lot of the work done. And to do that, that's where my 10 years experience comes in, is that I've vetted the process. I know what vendors to go to for what and what their expertise is, what's their bandwidths, what they can handle, what they can't handle. And I think that is a little bit different than how it was, than how I structured it. More of the old school way at today's business was, okay, we have, 30 employees. Yep. They all have 401ks, health benefits, the whole deal. Now it is more on that you're putting the pieces and you're aligning them with the right individuals. I think when you have an agency like that and you have so much overhead, that you tend to either turn away business that doesn't fit for that, for the individuals and the services that you provide, or you're kind of sticking a round peg in a square hole and you're kind of shoving it in there. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you shove it in there and it works for a few months or 6 months. So that does happen. But it also tends that you ruin some relationships because it's not a perfect fit. Yeah. And you're never all we always have perfect fits. No, what's perfect? You always have to mold and be kind of that Play-Doh where you're working in different molds and different people. So I think now I'm at a point where I sit down and consult with an individual or a business, an entrepreneur or an athlete, and I'm like, okay, this is the plan, this is the strategy, set it up for them, and then be able to align them with the right individual or company that I think would work best for them. And that's where I think it's a little bit different, and where the consulting aspect comes into play, because they're hiring me to be their quarterback, which going back to my high school days, play quarterback. So I'm being the QB, and pretty much they're coming to me and say, hey, this is what we need to do from a social perspective, or this is the challenges that I'm facing. Based upon the challenges that they're facing, then I could provide them a solution that I think works for them. Or I might have amazing, great contacts all over the field, but still might not be aligned. And that's something that I'll have to communicate to the client, that this, maybe, my services right now at where I'm at in, first Q1 of 2020 just doesn't fit the needs that they're looking for.
Yeah. You're the moat now. You're the decision maker for these guys. And I know what we're thinking about and what the listeners might be thinking about based on what they know about you off the top of their head is a lot of the high profile individuals, which naturally, that's kind of the main thing you're doing. And the number of those relationships you have, both that have been known publicly and a lot privately, is pretty absurd. So leveraging that to now have the credibility to be that guy who, you're not the guy building this or doing that. You are getting them to the people who do it and being their manager, like a true manager, and not, just being a control freak on everything and having it inside. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, look, what you built there and creating all those jobs and doing that business model is amazing, and it's commendable. But it also, to your point, round peg in a square hole, square peg in a round hole, whatever the fuck it is, one of them, like you're essentially then putting yourself into, well, this is where we are. And then the conversation about outsourcing things gets harder too, because it's like, well, what can we do in here? So for you to now have the flexibility, I don't know how much, if you heard of Naval Ravikant at all, who's, he's prominent out in Silicon Valley, founded angellist.com. Brilliant guy. Yeah. One of his main things is that most companies, great companies that are in this upcoming era now, if they're not creating a product that changes the world, right? Like some kind of crazy tech product or some sort of, something that people buy and actually use. And it's more consulting and stuff like that. The best companies, the most powerful people are going to run tight and thin. They're going to have limited employees, and they're going to have a clear structure that sets up like, well, here's what we handle in-house, and here's what we do to make sure we get to all these other companies like this who handle these specific things. And so to me, from the outside, Cervino Co. seems to be set up in a perfect way where that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you're leveraging those 10 years of all these guys who have across your industries are insane. It's not just athletes and influencers. All these powerful guys, Fortune 500 companies, whatever. We're like, oh, Chaz, oh my God, yeah. You now get to leverage that and say, hey, I'm your guy. What you need, you come to me. I'll make sure we get to the people that do it. Because by the way, I have networks there too. In all these other places, I know people that do this, do that, do this, do that. And, they want to do right by me too. So anyone I bring to them, they're going to do right by.
That's so true. That's literally Cervino Co. in a nutshell. But you can't get to that point without having 10 years experience, going through that agency route, understanding the whole digital landscape. And then it's kind of like, all right, what's the second climb? I feel like this is a perfect second climb for me, where I have the experience and the expertise to be able to do this. I wouldn't have been able to do this 10 years ago. So you have to go, the things that you have to go through, the education that you have to learn, might have learned certain things playing ball and in college, but starting your own business at 22 and being able to do it and build it up from nothing to where it is something, you learn a ton of unbelievable. I don't even know what to call. You learn so much. You can't even it's an understatement. You learn so much. You learn everything that you need to know inside and out about the business. So it's invaluable. It's fucking invaluable.
Well, the other thing that you really developed over time, just getting into these worlds and then getting into newer and newer ones over time, like adding to your lines of business like you guys did, and then finding your new interests, is figuring out where things are going versus where things have been. Like, even if you were early to it, you and I were talking earlier, again, don't know if it was on the podcast, but about how when you were starting off with just like when you were 22 with social media management, even though it was early on, 2011, whatever, that was still around for a couple years. It was a commodity. Anyone could send out the tweets for people and say like, oh, look at me, I'm taking care of your brand. Whereas then you moved more towards things where it's like, well, no, you got to have expertise on this. You got to be able to do this, do that. So now you're finding yourself in a lot of circles where you're dealing with high-level projects, and you don't have to speak about what you can't, but dealing with things in the tech space, dealing with the digital ether where our world is gone in COVID. Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you are allowed to talk about right now that you're working on, or spaces you're involved in where you see major value propositions and it being like the first inning?
There's certain there's certain things you want to touch up on. There's certain things that you don't. I think one thing that I can say that I've dove headfirst into is pretty much this within the crypto space is also a lot of to do with these NFTs. I mean, I don't really I know a little bit about it, and I'm learning more about it, but there's I don't know how much I really want to talk too much about that space. I do really like that space. But there's, where that is going, NBA Top Shot. I know you've had a couple individuals talking about that, which is unbelievable. Like, that space is so cool. I see the staying power within that space over the next 20 years and beyond. And then I also see the opportunity to be able to get in on the ground floor of different things like that. So, those things interest me though, but that's also what interests me on getting into social in 2011. Yeah. There's
what's coming next.
What's next? Yeah. What do we need to be prepared for? How does these things like an NBA Top Shot or a Nifty Gateway, how does that evolve? What's the next step for them? Because you're always trying to look at what's happening, how to evolve, how to kind of work in that space with different people. So it's I'm really interested about it. I think I'll continue to learn more about it and see how I can incorporate it into Cervino Co. But yeah, I think marrying that with some physical products, with also, and then also just, bringing that to influencers, athletes alike, I think is going to be super important,
Now, what the listeners couldn't see that I could during that little Q&A right there is the wink winks, like, I don't want to touch some things yet. So I know exactly what you mean. Got to stay hush-hush on some stuff that I'm sure we'll learn about very soon. But let's keep it on the high level of what you just mentioned, because I like that you brought that up. The NFT space as a whole, which, as you said, anyone that's coming out, minus people who have been legit in blockchain and deep in crypto for like 4 or 5 years, who really know their shit, minus those people, which, that's a select few. Anyone who's like, yo, I'm an NFT expert, man, they're full of shit. This is something that was around in 2017. I wasn't, and I was looking in the crypto spaces. I didn't know what the fuck an NFT was. I mean, I learned what an NFT was when I had Cole Kennelly here in DePaul guy, by the way. DePaul guy.
Love it.
Back in
Spartan.
Back in the end of December, who has been in the crypto space since 2016, knows fucking everything and everyone. And he started talking about NFTs, and then I started researching it. I didn't know anything about it. Like, I didn't know when it was...
Same time that I learned about it, right through the pod.
Exactly. So, all these people who are like, yeah, we've been in this for a while. No, you haven't, right? But for people who are listening and going, what the fuck, an NFT, non-fungible token, let's define this high level. I had on Nick Garol, as you said, who was deep into NBA Top Shot early on and learned all what this was really in the last few months. But with Top Shot, we've seen this two-dimensional digital asset where you take these NBA plays that have occurred in 2019 or 2020 of great players, shitty players, everything in between. You put digital art around them with scarcity, right? So maybe one play has 10 versions of it. Another play has 1,000. The one that has 10 and has LeBron James is worth a lot more that has 1,000 that has LeBron James, right? And you put it out on the open market, and when people buy it through this Top Shot community, they own that, and it's record on the blockchain. So no one else, you can't copy it. You know that you're the only person that actually owns it. And the key is you own it in the digital world. It's not sitting here. It's not tangible, right? It's not like the pictures on your wall or, even like a video. Well, I don't want to go too deep, but things that are in front of you, right? You own it on your phone. You own it on the page that people go to and see that it's your page. And it's kind of crazy that we're concepting this, that we're trying to, get into this concept now, because we've kind of missed the boat on it, in my opinion. It's been
around for over 3 years.
Not even 100% right. I'm going deeper than that, though. The whole digital aspect, right? One of the things you taught me a few years ago, I won't say it as well as you did, but you were like, the decisions of where things go are people who are below the age of 25. What are they doing? Ask them what they're doing, and that's probably where the value is going to be. And it's so fucking true. You look at how, social media, how every platform was born. It was born on the kids, the teenagers and stuff.
Still is.
And that's the point. NFTs, who values the NFTs? The people who grew up in the digital economy and believe that when they own a Fortnite skin, they get to show that off in the ether rather than wearing it to school. You and me, maybe we don't totally think that way, but are you starting to personally see the value in that and the clout and intrinsic value that it has when someone buys something that's only on the phone or on their computer?
Oh yeah, I see it all the time. I think Gary Vee's been freaking pumping this shit like crazy, man. And I think, I really, I respect where he comes from, and his perspective on it, because he's on the pulse. But I think it's got long staying power. You see where things have gone. You think, all right, do you buy certain things on, in physical form now, or do you do it in digital form? Music, completely digital form now.
Yep.
Books, you look at kind of all these different aspects. There's still some physical copies of these things. You can get an album cover. Yeah, you can still get, I think you can still get a CD. I mean, but do people do that? So I think everything's really moving to the digital front. And that's also, so that's why the internship program, and not to get off topic on the NFTs, that's why the internship program was so important. It brought in, we picked, you have 30 interns every semester. they tell you what's going on too. You're talking to them about, all right, what are you guys doing? What apps are you guys using? That's literally the questions that I would ask them. What do you guys, what are you communicating on? What are you building things on? What are you, creating things on? So that was part of it. And then the second part is then the top 2 or 3 people that really loved, the culture, the brand, everything that we were building, then they would come on as a possible employee or part-time through school or give them some extra hours while they were still at school at that time. So it was I call it was a lot of R&D as well as recruiting.
I never even thought of that.
Oh, great R&D. Great R&D.
That's what I'm saying.
Tons of great platforms that we learned from.
That's crazy.
It was like, what are you guys doing? And it wasn't like they were doing it in school. They were just doing it like in their dorm room or like outside of school. It wasn't like, oh, I'm taking this class and they're teaching me this. Like, and I'm not trying to knock school. I'm not.
No, I know what you're saying.
But they weren't doing that in their classrooms. They were doing it outside of classrooms on the social front and on these different platforms. So it's very interesting. Gary Vee says all the time, how much would you pay for that blue check mark? It's only on Instagram. It doesn't even transfer. That blue check mark doesn't transfer from Instagram to Twitter
to your hat.
To your hat. It doesn't. It's not in physical form, but people will pay real money for that. People will pay real money to buy these digital assets, which we talk about it, trying to understand this digital asset world and what NFTs are, and it's like, okay, well, I bought a skin on my COD game, Call of Duty. Okay, great, but people love that. All right, I got this new gun, or I got this. Why it's the same thing that you put money into. All these games on your phone. Why do people put money into Reddit so they could give a rocket emoji to a friend, like a sticker? Like that's all what we're talking about is these digital assets that don't really exist in real life or don't exist in physical form, yet are super valuable for people under the age of, you say 25, I even say under the age of 21, that truly value digital assets just as much as physical assets. And everything that we know over the last year, physical assets rare physical assets like sports cards and that stuff you had my brother on, that were like, have skyrocketed. Like they're in the stratosphere.
And that's physical.
That's physical. Yeah. So I think as long staying power, I also think that marrying them with physical products like the Jordan rookie card, you get an NFT or there's an X amount of NFTs and then you have the physical card, and then buying them together or working with them in some sort of way, I think is truly like old school, new school, kind of combining them together and then having something that's, hey Pops, I'll give you this physical card. I'll keep the digital asset. And he's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, man. And it's like the intergenerational, divide and conquer. When you look at it, where you actually morph those two worlds, which is crazy. And eventually, the older generations, like everything else, your grandpa who said in 2009, as mine did, I will never have a goddamn iPhone. Well, you know what? Had one by 2015. Yeah. So like people get with it, like as we assimilate, but
and it does take time to adopt.
It does. But you look at overall trends and stuff, and obviously COVID changed the world and changed how we look at things and changed how we view work and all these different things. And this will be a cultural case study for decades. I mean, we're going to see the remnants of this for the next 50 years to see what it really caused. But some trends that we've seen, like lack of trust in institutions, now moving to individuals, right? We've seen a lot of that, with people from across the political spectrum not trusting government for different reasons, but the same broad reasons at the end of the day. Like they're behind closed doors, they do their shit, they don't have our interests in mind. Guess what? We now have the tools of the internet to be able to work together as individuals and take back, even things down to money, which is why you see moves to Bitcoin and in crypto and stuff that's quote unquote decentralized. But we also have seen these different value shifts, right? So we're talking about the digital one moving to that world. How much does that then inject the shit, right? And let me be clear what I mean by that. Everyone's going to throw an NFT on something now. You remember back in 2017 when Bitcoin was blowing up and crypto was blowing up for the first time, and suddenly everyone was a token expert. Suddenly, you know, my favorite one, you saw a Long Island iced tea company on Long Island change their name from Long Island Iced Tea Limited or something to Long Island Blockchain because they just wanted to get into blockchain. Everyone wanted to throw the word blockchain on something and create a product there without thinking about what the actual integration of blockchain was. Very similar early on here with NFTs. What didn't happen there is blockchain didn't get rendered useless at all. Simply, it had to go through a market where suddenly all the bad actors and people who were opportunists left the market because they were full of shit. And then the great ones rose, and now we're seeing blockchain getting integrated in a beautiful way on so many things, including NFTs. So I think what you're going to see, and this is what I want your thoughts on with NFTs, is that there are going to be a lot of people creating an NFT out of something that has absolutely no fucking business being an NFT. Things that have no value, zero, you know, and not to call some people out, but I've seen some early deals here where it's a nobody putting out shit work. And because there's not a lot on the market yet, people are buying it like crazy for millions of dollars in some cases. And it's like, well, long term, some of that, once everyone runs to the market, the real ones are going to rise. What is this asset? Is that just some bullshit that some guy made to say I did an NFT? Or is that something that like, yo, if I have that, my friends are going to be like, damn, I got that. You know, and the scarcity world is the other thing. Like when you inject the supply, you're not going to have scarcity just by default. There's only so many people that can buy so many assets, right? But the ones that have the value, like the products that are created to have the value, people now really value that whole, like, I have it and you don't because there's only so many that are available. In the physical world, we've seen it throughout history. Like they always talk about the tulip craze in Europe back in the 1600s or whatever. When everyone started wanting tulips, what happened? Everyone started growing fucking tulips. And then once everyone was growing fucking tulips and trying to sell them, what happened? Prices of tulips went through the floor. Once you have this set scarcity in the ether where it's like, nope, only 10 of those were ever made. That's it. So like you get your hands on that, you're guaranteed like, yo, I have something that will never be recreated. That's an interesting world to think about because we don't really have a precedent there.
No, we don't. And I think that's why I think between scarcity, between extra discretionary income right now when no one's traveling. I mean, people want to experience things in real life too. We're talking about the digital assets and digital space, but I think once things open up a little bit, especially at this time, I think they're going to be a little bit less dollars moving into that space. I don't think by any means is it going to hurt the space by any means. It's just going to, it makes the space a little bit, I think that the space is, it's a very high place right now. It's not, I don't know if it's at its height, but it's very high. So I feel like once things stable out a little bit, you have some real guys coming to the market, I think it would just become a little bit more of a, I don't know, they call that thing stable coin or whatever the heck it is within crypto. Yeah. I think it just becomes more stable. I believe that right now it's a little high. It will probably see a dip like anything else, and then it will be just becoming more stable because I don't think it's going anywhere. People are going to own assets. People don't want to own, so many, it's, believe me, I've moved a few times. Moving sucks. I'd rather have everything in a digital wallet on my phone than be packing up all these freaking pieces of artwork and things I've collected. I'm a collector. I like to hoard things. That's my wife. She freaking hates it. She hates it. She's like, you're a hoarder. But I like to collect like trinkets. I like to collect really cool things by cool people, have stories behind them. That's kind of like one of the things I love to do. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I find that to be really enjoyable. And I think now that's where it's shifting over to digital assets, NFTs, next level. But right now, yeah, you said it. There's people putting out shit NFTs. Am I out there buying these shit NFTs? No. Why the fuck would I spend my money on some shit stuff? I know it's going to be there for the next 20 years and beyond. Do I need to buy one right now at the height or very high of the market when everyone else is buying these damn things? Maybe if it's something that I really love and want to see, but it's also, some things where I know it's going to be, I know they're going to be creating more digital assets.
Yeah.
So
it's first inning.
It's the first inning. 2017 was early. I mean, when they first started it, this is like second inning of where it's going to be. And yeah, I love the industry, love where it's going, and I think there's a ton of really, really cool possibilities that could be that creatively can be done with a lot of these artists and influencers, athletes alike. So it's just a really cool space to be in. I think brands are gonna. I think that's where I think a next level is right now. Individuals are putting out there. They're going to be working with brands. They're going to be marrying things with physical products. I think there's a lot of layers to where this thing goes. And everyone throws the term blockchain out there, but it truly is a ledger of where the transactions are made on these platforms. And then to be able to track secondary transactions, or if something sells for 25,000 and resells for 50,000, having a ledger of that, of where it's sold for, and then having that attribution. That's a lot of that stuff goes back to my days in affiliate where we were doing so much affiliate. And it's like, okay, well, if someone buys this, you get a piece of this. Now there's a next step to that. There's another layer to that, and it's all being tracked on the blockchain rather than through some other third-party platforms that we were using to track that are still very big right now. So I think that I'm really long on the space.
Yeah, those platforms are still big, and some of the most quote unquote centralized platforms in the world, a YouTube, an Instagram, like they're all huge, right? But it's hard to concept a world where suddenly, you put blockchain on it or whatever, but take that out for a second. It's hard to concept a world where suddenly things are not quote unquote centralized. They're that decentralized, which starts to get into the point where people are like, all right, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yep.
But in a world where what you access on your phone or through your network doesn't have to go to one central hub. All the phones and all the networks have access to this and have the record of it. So, someone in the middle can't change that record. When you send a DM on Instagram, it doesn't just immediately go to that person's inbox. Mm-hmm. It touches the Instagram servers first, which have a record of it, handle it, and push it out. So if you want to hack Instagram, you just hack their servers, and now you've hacked every single user that's attached to that. Mm-hmm. With the decentralized quote-unquote blockchain concept, no, you have to hack all the phones to and all the computers to effectively hack it. So it makes sense, like what it is. And I just think with COVID and the lack of trust, again, hitting on the institution point, you're only going to see more of it. Even if it's hard to picture in your head, well, what would a decentralized Instagram look like? I don't know. I don't know how that works. But there's smart people working on it. And so you see things like the NFTs rise up. It's just it's a piece of an overall trend. And it's a typical life imitates art, man.
Yes. And there's also, if you really think about it, I think Jack Dorsey, I think he sold the first tweet. There's actually another platform, I was on it the other day, that you can buy tweets. You could bid on tweets. You could purchase them if the individual, that's where it gets like, it gets foggy, and this thing, and it goes to, and believe me, is there Bitcoin friggin' casinos out there that people know about that don't know about? Yeah, I've been on those sites. You do research, you're on there. Yeah. There's so many crazy things that you could put your money into or not. I bought a couple cause, sculptures, like it's the artist cause. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but bought some of those things. It's all based on the scarcity of it. It's all based on the artist. And I think this world now with NFTs and all this other stuff, I think it's giving the artist back like that control. Because they were, even at an agency level, they're creating tons of pieces of artwork. And I think that they're, more on like the back end of it, where now when they display a lot of this stuff on social media, but you're getting other jobs from that. You're not really selling your artwork. There's certain marketplaces where you do sell your artwork, but I think it's giving them an ability, which, I love that expertise in the art space, photo editing. It's what a really cool space that is. So to give them these platforms like this, I think is awesome.
What about music though, man? That's the biggest one. Think about how fucked musicians got. And not that it was intended this way, but once it went to streaming and iTunes was invented and the iPod, iPhone eventually came in, the monetary gain and ability to earn on their songs that they got went through the floor because all the record companies, which already took half their fucking shit, lost control, right? Mm-hmm. So now you look at it.
That's really interesting to think about this space, but musically, and how the artists in that space have gotten crushed with going digital. Now they could take take some of that revenue back for themselves and release it through themselves. Granted, they probably have contracts with agencies and so on and so forth. But that's awesome to think that they could take some control back because they got absolutely destroyed with from going from albums, CDs, all they got destroyed. That was a huge money maker. Huge money maker.
I mean, they
for them.
make no money.
And now they really only were making money with tours and physical concerts. Yep. Where's that been the last year with COVID?
Yep.
So I mean, and if you also think about that space, you go into musicians and then comedians.
Comedians got crushed, man.
Crushed.
The comedians who won over the past year. I mean, I can think of 3 in particularly off the top of my head: Andrew Schultz, Tim Dillon, and Whitney Cummings in a way. And I know a little bit less about her whole situation, but they won because they were ready for the digital world. They were ready for taking their comedy to YouTube, taking it, like already having podcasts set up. Schultz didn't, but having the type of content that people were going to consume like crazy and have the chance for it to be viral and constantly being out in front of people where they're not on the stage building, the old school way. And now you've seen so many even great comedians lose a lot of traction because they made all their money on the tours. They made all their money doing the stages and suddenly, can't do that. And they didn't have the operation ready to go and they don't know that world.
Yep.
That's
a lot of like the legends in comedy.
Yeah.
So I think there could be a space within the NFT or within that kind of digital assets that these comedians can do, privatized, what is it? Stand up for.
Actually, yeah, that's interesting.
A private, kind of a private room or whatever it may be. But I think even if what's that platform? Patreon or something that you could donate.
Patreon.
Yeah. Patreon. Yeah. You could have a community there where people pay you to put out, private content. You could have a private account on YouTube. So I don't know if people are utilizing, these certain resources, but I think where the digital assets are going and the scarcity behind it rather than putting it on those platforms, I think is really what's unique. And I think these artists are finally, you talk about decentralized, you talk about all these places and based off the blockchain, I think they're going to be the ones that win at the end of the day in this space where over the last 10, 15 years, it was still trying to get figured out. It's like you're searching for gold and you're just sifting through when is it going to open up? When is it going to open up? So I feel like a few of these things that are happening right now are giving them the ability to really capitalize on their craft and their expertise.
What about sports and athletes though? Because that's obviously a sweet spot for you. Look, I don't think anyone liked the NBA bubble when they had to do that, and at least they're not in the bubble anymore. Like they're playing games in their stadiums that are mostly empty. Obviously it's got to go back to normal as we get vaccinated here. If it doesn't, we got a big problem as a society.
Yeah, we do.
And people have seen the goalposts move over and over and over again. So who the fuck knows? But I can't ignore the trend. I've talked about this before, but in Game 6 of the NBA Finals last year, with LeBron James playing in it and the LA Lakers playing in it, I think they had 300,000 some viewers. That same night, CNN and Fox News had a combined like 10 million viewers. And that's like dinosaur cable, right? Yep. And so I look at this and I wonder how much COVID has changed pop culture. Now, like things like music that you put in your headphones and shit that you can go about your day and it gives you an emotion and stuff. That's only been great, right? If you were an artist that was set up to be able to capitalize on this and record some music and put it out there, like cool. Sports, I wonder about a little bit because people still gambled on it like crazy. I had Ant the Bookie in here talking about
great.
that and the fucking character. But, they were still doing that. But that's just the human nature of like those humans, they want action. They don't even watch it when they're betting on Lucas Suave and table tennis.
Yeah, I know.
Which, shout out to Lucas Suavia, which does not exist.
Yeah.
But, it's not like they're watching that. They want the sick action, whatever. But I wonder about how seriously we take these common pop culture institutions in the new digital world. Do people care as much? Are there more things that they're now interested in? I mean, when you go on social media, it seems like people are more interested in talking about like content and talking about creators and I'm just speaking very high level right now, talking about things going on in the world or bitching about politics more than likely, rather than, where some of that oxygen would have previously been seriously spent on sports. I wonder about how they come out of this. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
That's a great question, just because I love basketball, so I'm watching the bubble. Was it hard to watch because it looks like a pickup game?
Yeah.
I would watch pickup games. So I would sit in a gym and watch, practices of, college teams and guys, that grew up watching. So like that really didn't affect me the way I think it affected a lot of others that are just casual fans, not really like dedicated to the game and love the game the way I did. So, but I think it will change. I think over time, it will change. But I think surprisingly, I think it's going to change for the better, because I think we're also talking about Top Shot. We're talking about how these 2D images and where they're going to be and stuff like that. Well, I feel like the games will be at a different level and will be displayed in a different way for individuals and consumers to be able to digest them in a different fashion. So I think, if these games were playing on in front of us, or, now we could, record the games, watch them at different times, all of that really on demand. I think sports still gives us that it gives us that time where we're like, we can have it on demand, but we'd rather watch it live. And I think live portion of that will still exist. But I think, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling here. I love sports so much. It's hard for me to kind of think about them really not being as prevalent as they currently are in society, and people put so much onus on their team and their, and kind of, putting so much eggs in that basket, you'd say, because they don't like the NFL. Do I get upset about the NFL? Of course. Because Tom Brady can play for 20 years because no one can even touch him in the helmet.
Yeah.
Can't even touch this guy in the helmet without getting, like, it's a major penalty. So do I get mad at those things on how things have changed? Of course. Do I still watch the NFL? Do I still watch the Super Bowl? Yeah. I don't know if I couldn't watch it, but do I get upset about how things have changed and how the game has changed in both the NBA, the NFL, and these other leagues? Of course. I mean, just soft as shit.
Yeah. Well, and again though, the kids, the kids who are watching that's what they're used to now,
And then you go back to what we were talking about earlier with, taking on head-on collisions on a daily basis, and then your head is, it's like, what do you want?
Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Can't have it both ways.
But it's thinking about the sports thing. Why do we love sports? When do we come to love sports? We come to love them when we're growing up. Why do we love them when we're growing up? Because very often we play those sports and we dream about being the gladiators who actually made it, whether it be football, basketball, whatever. One of the things that, again, I don't know how this turns out here, but I think about the kids all the time because I'm not a kid at this point, right? Like, I'm not in school and I'm not around them all the time. But I think about the kids in this COVID era who now, this is a reality. Think about especially the most impressionable ones, like the 8-9-year-olds who are coming into themselves for the first time, right? And having their own thoughts. And now they live in this world where there's fear. You're separated from people. It's not natural to be close to people because you might get sick, right? which, by the way, for kids, you might get sick with something that has like a 0.0001% chance of fucking killing them. Don't take my stats literally, people. Go look it up for yourself. I'm not a fucking COVID expert, but you get the point. Like, kids aren't really dying from this. It is a huge outlier, right? And yet they are in this world where suddenly that's the worst thing, and everything that used to be natural isn't. And one of the many downstream effects is sports. You see some of these high school games are wearing fucking masks on the court.
I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it,
bro. Like, and the kids, they don't want to play. They're home. They're doing remote school and stuff. You think they're like signing up for the soccer team or the football team? No,
they're not.
And do you think they're going to want to do that next year? What are the downstream effects? How many kids suddenly don't play sports or don't get social, period? And then what effect does that have in our long-term viewpoint of those people in society, the athletes? That's another thing to think about here.
Shit, I couldn't walk through freaking Costco with a mask on and a jacket. I was freaking hyperventilating. I don't know how people do it in their jobs on a day-to-day. I work, working from home. Yeah. I do not know day in and day out to wear that mask or wear multiple masks and a shield on your face for as your norm.
The multiple mask thing is hilarious. The multiple mask thing is fucking hilarious.
I can't. I really...
And it's not like, we're not arguing the efficacy here. No. Like, that's not the point. It's just, it's crazy that is a reality that people have had to get used to and whatever. And they better not be getting used to it after we're vaccinated, because that's the whole fucking point, to not have to be normal again and get our kids socializing and not having your face fucking covered and stuff. But dude, it is... So societally, we could go across the board and say, how does it affect relationships? How does it affect your ability to form relationships? It's scary, man.
And I like this topic. I don't like to, dwell on it, because you don't want to dwell on this whole, the pandemic and COVID and talking about it. But it's true, man. You don't know how to say hello to people. You don't know to shake their hand. You don't know to give them a fist pump. Are you hugging family? You're not hugging family. You're not freaking kissing family. What are we doing? You can't even tell what their emotions are or how they look. Are they smiling at you? Are they saying hi? Are they friendly? You have no freaking clue.
And it's not, saying these things at this point, it's not to be like...
I don't know why people haven't created a clear mask so you could see people's face through a mask that can actually protect you. I haven't seen any of that.
I did see one.
Did you?
Day. It's weird. It
gets
fogged up.
Does it? Oh, yeah. That was what, what's his name? Andy Reid was happening. He was getting all fogged up in his visor.
And that was a visor, which is like next level. It's still not, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not... Again,
but I've never seen anyone visor, no mask. It's a mask visor, because then you still can't see people's face. It's on the court, dude. I saw it on the court. I was like, I can't even. This is.
I know we value human life more and more over the course of history, which is a very positive thing. Not arguing with that, but 80 years ago, they were jumping from fucking planes on Normandy, and there was like a 40% chance they were going to live. And now, there's this fear on people the same age to wear 6 fucking visors and a mask on the very off chance they're actually going to die. Like, you should be able to say out loud that, hey, this is really bad and we have to do things different until we get it fixed, until we get vaccinated and stuff. Totally on board. You should be able to say that out loud without someone pointing at you and saying, oh, so you don't believe in it? Oh, you think this is wrong? We all know people who've gotten really banged up about this. Yeah. We know some people who have died as well, right?
Absolutely.
They tend to be older, or they tend to be in not good shape. That is a fact, but it's happened, right? You don't really see as much of that or nearly as much of that with the regular flu. That's also a fact, right? So you should be able to say, like, hey, this is really serious, and we need to make adjustments, and we need to be able to ride this out with set adjustments until we're at a point where, hey, we got the vaccine now, we're good to go. But you shouldn't have to be off the deep end about it. And it's just, because you're, again, like, your whole business is built on relationships. It's built on, shaking hands and meeting and personally understanding people. Hard to do that right now.
Very hard. Very hard to do that. People don't necessarily want to meet. They don't want to converse. They rather just do a Zoom call or Google Meet. And you're getting used to it. You're like, okay, yeah, it's cool. I don't got to leave my house. It's like, oh, it's kind of. But then again, you can only establish such a relationship where you're not actually fucking sitting down with people and breaking bread, talking to people, like and just being around others. I don't know. I don't know when that next shift is going to come. Hopefully it comes this summer. I'm hoping that, we're going to kind of get a little bit more of that normalcy where people do want to go out. People do want to meet. I've just seen a lack of enthusiasm to get out there and start freaking meeting new people and just meeting people in person. As I'm starting Cervino Co., you want to get out there and meet as many people as you possibly can. But internally, do I want to, like, if I meet with somebody, that also affects who's coming to my house tonight, who's my in-laws. They're all, my parents, do I go see my grandparents? So if I go on a business meeting to somewhere and I'm sitting down with a couple guys, all right, then I go to my grandparents' house. Like, you're always worried about who you're going to affect afterwards, which is understandable. And that's why, it's funny to talk about the double mask and the whole shield. If that's what people need to feel comfortable, it's really sad and unfortunate that they can't go out and just feel comfortable with one mask on, or just trying to do and just go out there without anything and just kind of just living your life. But there's so many implications to this. It's very weird. I am, and sometimes you just forget. Say invite a friend over. Is he vaccinated? Did he take a test before he came over? I'm like, oh shit, did he take a test?
There's only so much you can do, man. We just need to get vaccinated. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
We gotta get it done. And like, I'm looking to sign up as well. I know you and I talked about that, like getting it done. That's what people are starting to do too. You're seeing, I think we passed 50 million like 3 weeks ago or something. So we're probably, I don't want to estimate the number, but we're higher than that now across the country. Like, that's a great sign. And now, people like us are getting in on it.
People feel safe. Yeah. I mean, just get back to some normalcy. People go out there and, go out to dinner. I know they're opening up, I believe in Jersey now, it's like 50%. I think they're moving from 35 to 50. I didn't understand the 10 p.m. curfew. So
It's common.
you can get COVID from
COVID knows.
COVID knows when you close at 10 p.m. that
If you're there after 10, COVID knows you fucked up and it's going to come get you. But before 10, it's going to chill at the coat rack. It's not going to come in. It knows. Like, oh no. Mike's here at 9:45. There he goes. He's leaving. We're good. Mike, you're free to go.
I didn't get that one.
It's hysterical. And for years, some of these, like, I guess, like, maybe the Tea Partiers and some of the, like, some right-wing people always use this term sheep, right? And so you couldn't really use it unless you wanted to get painted in that light. And now it's more of a broad term that you see more and more people using because of what's happening out there. And I think it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But the lineman on Carolina, Russell Okung, whose Twitter is unreal, doesn't tweet about anything football. He's like a brilliant critical thinker. He put out a video that I think was from TikTok a few weeks ago, where it was, I think his caption was something along the lines of, "This man is using a lint roller and no one is asking a question. When you build and I'm paraphrasing here, when you build a society of sheep, they're going to keep being sheep. And when you build a society of people that aren't asking questions, this is what you get." And what it showed was some random building in a city block. Could have been a Starbucks. I don't know what it was. I couldn't see on the inside. A guy was standing outside using a lint roller and stopping people at the door and going like this, holding his arms out to get them to get like a security wand. And he was taking a lint roller as a security wand and then saying, "Okay, you're good, come in." And people were lining up and letting him wand them with a fucking lint roller. No one was asking a question. By the law of averages, a lot of smart people were in that line too, not asking a question. And that's what I worry about with this. It's not about mass and that shit. It's all the other stuff. Like, when are you going to say, okay, so you're saying we're still going to need to do this after we get vaccinated? These are simple questions, and people need to ask them. And I think he's right about that. There's not enough people asking that.
Not a lot of people. They rather just kind of go with the flow, unfortunately. No, I'm pretty perplexed about everything. It's just, The media. You go back to the media play. Can't trust what they say. Can't trust. And
Yeah,
I haven't
they all
watched.
suck.
I haven't watched the media since early fucking March 2020.
I used to on the like treadmill or elliptical at the gym. That we'd have CNN and Fox News right next to each other. I loved it because you would laugh your ass off.
Absolutely.
At it, right? They're both loony bins. You can't laugh at. I mean, I just stay away from watching it ever. You can't laugh at them anymore. They're crazy, and you see it's like it infects people's minds.
100%.
It's it's not good. But anyway, but before we get out of here on a more personal note and whatever, obviously we've waited to do this for a while.
Yeah.
And now you're free.
Yes.
Free at last. But looking back on from my perspective, like the last 3 years since we really started working closely together and doing all kinds of stuff, where you were and what you were doing, obviously very successful, had the company, had at that point built all the serious relationships too. We're doing that things, but you talked about it earlier in this conversation, not being happy and not knowing what the next steps were and where it was going. From my seat, having the chance to sit there and learn from you, also get a lot of opportunities to unlock my own world that you unlocked for me. And there's people like you that I owe a ton to, a very select group of people, and you're at the top of that list, so thank you. But, seeing how you went from step to step here to take control of your life and get yourself in this position to have this type of freedom and be able to have the vision you want to have and leverage all the things that you did build. That currency you built was the people you built who are not your network. They are your relationships. They are your friends. They are the people who call you at 3 a.m. and you answer and vice versa. It gives me a lot of hope in the world because if we have examples, people who lead and lead by example and show other people how business is done and how you're good to people and everything comes around, you're the kind of guy that needs to have that platform and needs to have that forefront, not just scream like, oh, look at me, look at my life, on a fucking beach on Instagram like half these guys do. You're somebody who's lived in the dirt and has gotten dirty with people and what I mean by that is you're somebody who's been through it and had the ups, had the downs, understood what's important at the end of the day, and now you finally are. It's a beautiful thing seeing you succeed, and I know some of the things you got going on that we can't talk about, but we will very soon on a future podcast. I just want to say from my seat, it's a beautiful thing to see you now able to get out there and do this and be able to build that platform. And so I'm grateful that, you can come on here and start the front edge of the public side of that. And, I want to make you a regular guest moving forward with all the things that you're at the forefront and doing.
Well, that was definitely better said than I could ever say it. And no, it's fucking awesome. I love what you've built. This is unbelievable because I've known you before you were running a very successful podcast and being this amazing host, which we have talked about plenty of times. I think getting out of the commodity, is it commodity, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of the commodity
way.
business.
Yeah.
Getting out of the commodity business and getting into a business where can anyone else replicate Chaz Cervino? I mean, I'm sure there's other people out there that are great networkers and great connectors, but they're just not me.
It's more subjective.
Yeah. And a lot of people, there's millions of companies doing SEO. We talked about this. There's millions of companies doing social media. There's millions of companies building you a website. Granted, I could do all those things, but I also am bringing a wealth of knowledge, relationships, connections to the table. So what I didn't realize 10 years ago was that that's really valuable. Really, really valuable. I didn't realize that till maybe a few years ago when I'm like, oh shit. And then as I was going through this transition, it just came to light that like, dude, this is something that no one else can really teach. You can't teach what you have like to anybody. You can't teach what you have. Look at everything that you built here. Look at everything that you're doing on your end. You can't. I mean, people can have podcasts, right? Can they be Trendifier? No. It's exactly. It's you. You can't replicate. You can't replicate you. And I feel like that's the same thing with me with Cervino Co. and where I'm going and what I'm building, is that it's it's so unique and it's one of a kind. And that's something that I love that I can't like, I'm happy that I'm in this place right now that I can, that I could really relish in my own kind of, my own little world. And I don't really need to rely on anybody else. It's pretty unique.
Yeah.
And that I could effectively provide tons of value to people, which is ultimately, as I think I said in the beginning, I don't know exactly what you said before. I don't know if it was before, after, whatever it may be. But it's so cool that, you can make call your own shots, make your own decisions. All right.
You can't buy trust.
You're right.
That's what you built.
Yeah. That's very true. You have to be able to trust the people that you're in business with, and you're right. It's really cool to be able to do that with people and them to trust you with their businesses, with their, I don't want to call it their livelihoods, but a lot of these people, when you talk about, when you talk about, building a foundation for their business, their digital platforms, and they're putting that in your hands and like, okay, like, I trust that you're going to handle this for me. I take that very seriously. I have a major fear of letting people down. It's out there. I do. That's
not a bad fear to have.
I really do. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's through, growing up or how my parents were, how my grandparents were. I don't like to let people down. I also like to be able to be that person where I can help people. And at this point now, my business is truly in the where I'm being this consultant. I'm going to have to tell some individuals, which I've done in the past, but it was different when you're in an agency. Now it's your name, it's Cervino Co. And like, now it's going to have to turn people down that I really can't help you.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be times like that. Do I want to be able to help a lot of people? Of course. But you know what? It's not right to tell people I can help everybody, because sometimes you really can't.
You can't work with a lot of small businesses that maybe you cracked your teeth with, at the beginning. It's just, and that's a credit to you, because your time is valuable, and you got to spend it in the places that are most valuable and where you can add the most value. And you can do that with the powerful circles that you've gotten yourself into. And the other important point is, though, when you build a relationship with a Kevin or Ray or something, or some of these other guys, you're building it with all the other people around them, including the people who maybe don't have like a huge role in stuff, and you take them just as seriously as you take Kevin and Ray. And there's not a lot of people. Everyone says like, oh, I treat the doorman the same as the CEO. Very few people do that. Your dad does that, and you do that. And so I think a lot of that is like an environment thing where you learn that at a young age, that was instilled in you, and that makes you a scarce asset.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point, because I have blinders on when it comes to really judgment on where you come from, what you did, and it's probably, shit, man. My dad posted the other day my first team in Jersey City, but I was that team that I was on. I don't know if you guys know the book Miracle of St. Anthony. Is it Miracle of St. Anthony? The basketball team from St. Anthony's in Jersey City, but that was the team that became that.
Oh wow!
That team
okay.
as they grew up. So pretty interesting on that front. But it was probably I was in so many different environments. I was in so many different environments as a kid. I had to adapt to all these different places, and I had to be able to earn respect at the same time, not not shit on people. You know what I mean?
Yep. I
understand. When you go into a different environment, no one knows you. Okay, why is this? What's this kid gonna do? Okay, well, I got to show respect. I got to be good enough, but I can't do it in a way. Maybe you could explain it better. You're better with words than me, Jules. But you have to do it in a way where people are like, oh, dude, I fuck with that guy, but he's not like shoving it in my face.
He's not trying too hard.
That's it.
Yeah.
you're not trying too hard, but you're gaining the respect of others. And I think that's part of teams. That's why, and that's why it's, I am doing this Cervino Co by myself, but there's teams around me that I'm building and relationships around me that I've built for the last 10 years that are really the foundation of Cervino Co. I think that's really what it comes down to.
I don't know if I assume you just kind of come by this honestly and don't notice it, and I've said this about at least a couple different people I've had on this podcast because it's very true about them too, but it's a crazy good asset to have these days. And that is, you are somebody who's not afraid to say, I don't know about that, but I'm going to talk to the guy who does, or I know the guy that does, let's bring him in. And so many people just want to bullshit and be like, oh yeah, let me tell you all about that. And, put in insert filler words here and figure something out that they have no business on. But that's what makes you the connector. Cause you're like, where your lines are of like, no fucking idea on that. And there's people who inherently appreciate that. Cause they're like, all right, this guy's not bullshitting me, and especially when you're dealing with people who have a lot of inbound coming at them, they get bullshitted all the time by people who claim to be experts on stuff and they aren't. And so you know what you know what you don't know, where you're an expert, where you're not, and when to draw that line. And that's what you talk about, not trying to be something you're not. That's the literal definition of it.
Yeah, I think being involved in so many of these different environments and being subjected to so many different types of people and all different walks of life, I think have given me that ability to be able to kind of relate to a lot of different people on a lot of levels. Like, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I also didn't grow up where, I didn't have food on the table on Sunday.
Yep.
So I think I was in between, and I think that also, I was subjected to pretty much every type of environment. So I think that definitely helps, make you, make the, what makes you you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I said, like, you don't have to, be somebody else. At the end of the day, you're one of a kind. And that's where something that is, it's not I hate using that thing commodity now, but it's just, I feel like so many people are in, all right, how many graphic designers are there? Millions upon millions. And I think the NFT space is going to help them, and pick out
that example, sure. Yeah.
So
I know what you mean, though.
You know what I mean? And then I also think about how many millions of people do SEO, how many millions of people are running Facebook ads. Like, if you don't know how to run Facebook ads, you're not of the majority, because the majority of people know how to run them now. If you don't, so I think
business owners,
and business owners, you're setting up your Google My Business page, like those are necessities in business. Those are different things that you need to do, certain things, and those are things that I will handle for businesses. But then there's plenty of things that businesses will come to me that aren't as cookie cutter or aren't as out there, that it's easily accessible to find good quality people. And I think that's where, I'll be able to come in and provide clarity on some of these harder issues that business owners, that entrepreneurs, that athletes and influencers face on a daily basis that they need solutions on.
Well, we've been looking forward to doing this, as I said, and you're going to be in here a bunch. So this is the first little soiree. We kept it higher level today, which I liked. I mean, I don't really know when it's going to get deeper or whatever. We had some moments like that today, and this was a great conversation. Thank you for doing it. But I think there is, especially as you get to reveal some things that are going on here, I think there's a wealth of knowledge and information, as I said earlier, that you could share with people that they're going to take a lot of value out of. And I'm very, very excited that you're on to this Act 2 of your journey, because Act 2 is always better than Act 1.
It is. Act 2 is always a little bit better. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. I've seen the other, I think we're at am I 38?
You're going to be 39 or 40, because I'm filming back to back.
39 or 40. So, you've had some great guests. Awesome to be a part of that community that you're creating on the podcast here. So that's something that you always want to be in exclusive company. So I think, thanks so much for bringing me on, Jules. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I like that you call this exclusive company. We're building, baby. We're building. So we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep working on some stuff.
Sweet.
But everybody else, give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace.